Right, we should be live. Although it's telling me the audio stream's current bitrate is 0. Oh, that's because it's on the delay. Chill out. I know that. That's fine. All right, hi everyone. Hopefully you can see us. If you can see us, say you can see us. Thank you.
I don't see anything on either one.
Give it a second.
Okay, I see us now in the tubes.
Okay, good. Yeah, Mixer's going live.
Yeah.
I need to pull out the chats and stuff. Hang on. Pop out chat. Oh, I haven't even... Oh, my God. I forgot to update the Mixer page.
I look nice and orange today. Fix my tint.
Dan, you are orange. I'm sorry to break
it to you. I am not. I look nice and orange Maybe today. Check my Logitech camera settings.
No, it's my end. Okay. For some reason... Oh, no, actually. You're just extra orange today. I don't know why. Yeah, maybe change something on your end. I've already set the contrast like I normally say it. Maybe it's my contrast that's making you look even worse.
Come on. I gotta go to Mixer to see me since... Oh, now I'm pink.
You could be whatever color you want, Dan. Oh, I don't want to log into Microsoft Mixer. We might be a couple minutes late. Sorry, guys. Daniel. I bet it's not even that email. Come on, sticky notes. Loading sticky notes? Why does it... Are you kidding me? It's a sticky note. It doesn't need to load. This is loading sticky notes. I can't even believe they've built that in. A UI for loading. Right, let's change the page. If you want Mixer, you may have noticed that the date and episode number's wrong, because I didn't update it yet. 17th. There we go. That should have changed.
I don't think my color is much better. It is pinker. So.
Yeah, I don't know why that happens. You actually come through fine on Skype. It's just XSplit for some reason really colorizes it and enhances the vibrancy.
Did you put the Trump filter on?
Let me see if I turn off the contrast change as I've made now. Maybe that's better. See if that makes a difference for you.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. As long as you're happy.
It's fine. I don't mean to be such a drama queen.
Apparently we can create a highlight video using this new YouTube streaming thing. And I can insert an ad. Great news. I won't do that. All right, I am pretty much ready to go. Actually, let me test my mic quick.
Yeah, how you far?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. That sounds good enough. All right, I'm ready to go when you are.
I need another 30 seconds. Oh, I gotta mute these. Mute. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. That did not work. Oh, what is going on?
It's a good thing you did a test, isn't it, Dan?
I guess so. Maybe it's this one.
I'm just going to wipe the Mixer chat real quick because last week's in there as well. There we go. Dan has a full head of hair. It's cool.
3.
They like your hair, Dan.
Oh, thank you. It's called not getting a haircut.
Like most of us in the world right now.
Oh. I got too many USB mics. Oh, man. This is just super confusing. I got a lot of stuff going on. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Either it's not recording or I can't hear it. I'm not sure which is which. Holy cow.
If the mic, the little pulsing thing when you talk, is that moving?
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Wow.
Is it not pulsing?
It doesn't do that anymore.
You sure?
Yeah, under the 2004,
it does
has
for me. It's doing it right now.
Let's see, microphone. All right, testing. Okay, that's working. Hello, one more time. I'm getting really tired. It might have recorded. I can't hear it if it's playing back. I think my speakers are wrong again.
All right, well, just record. If worse comes to worse, I can just pull your audio from the master. It just doesn't sound as good, but it'll be fine.
All right, now I got it now. It was the output speakers just weren't recording. All right. Let me fire off the tweet. It is sent. This is what happens when you switch computers, by the way.
Yeah.
Folks. And you have 9,000 things of equipment out there. And I did the Windows 10 update today, so.
That adds a curveball to things.
It really did. It really did. Yeah, let's see. I'm still messing with my white balance. All right, whatever. I'm recording.
I'm recording as well.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 175. Ooh, let's do that again. I slurred.
Okay.
Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 175 for April 17th, 2020. Hey everyone, Dan Rubino here, joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. And this week we got actually quite a bit of little things to talk about. There is the official Windows 10 May 2020 update is now official. That's the name of it, at least. And we'll talk about what that means, how you can get it, what's the safest way to get it, should you install it, and Zach will tell you also some of the major features there. We'll also talk about Insider Program updates, because yes, those are still getting updated, including a new fast ring build, which should be interesting. There were some more rumors around the Surface Book 3 and Surface Go 2 specs, which came out. And we're going to talk a little bit about those and the possibilities there. Now, this isn't necessarily confirmed stuff, at least not confirmed with our sources. This is some indirect evidence, which could be questionable, but is probably some truth to it. Also, a lot of laptop news this week. HP and Dell, much to my chagrin, on the same day at the same time announced a ton of laptops, which means we had a ton of press releases and tables to work on, which you don't understand how much work that is to do those spec tables. It's not fun. But I'm going to talk about the HP ones because the Lenovo ones are gaming and they're cool. I mean, if you're into gaming, go check them out. Lenovo did a very nice job. I wasn't actually available for a pre-brief on those. I'm not familiar with them, and I'm not into Lenovo gaming laptops. Sorry, guys. I love their ThinkPads, but HP has more stuff aimed at creators, general consumers, and Ultrabooks and this kind of stuff, including it's the Envy line. So these aren't the super high-end stuff. I actually really like Envy, which is why we talk about it, because that's how this podcast works. I only talk about things I'm interested in. So same way I review laptops. I only review laptops that I would actually use myself. So that's how this all works. And finally, we talk about the NBA deal and Jedi contract stuff. Basically, Microsoft is making billions, and they're going to make billions more. They made some big deals this week, so we'll just quickly recap those. And then, of course, as always, if you're listening to this live, we'll take your questions and answers at the end of the podcast, so make sure you save those. If you want to ask questions on the topics we're talking about while we're talking about them, feel free to do that. If they're pertinent, I'll try to address those during the podcast. On that, Zach, how are you doing on this fine Friday? As people pointed out, yes, my hair is this is like week 6 now of isolation.
Yeah, your hair's definitely getting long. I'm not too bad. I'm trying to fiddle around the coloring of the video for the live stream. If you're listening to this pre-recorded, we do this live every Friday in video form. And every week, everyone's complaining about the colouring between me and Dan and how Dan sometimes looks a bit too orange. This week, apparently, I look a bit too orange, and I can never figure out why. Why. But yeah, I'm gonna just forget about it. I don't care anymore. Okay.
Probably some of the white balance stuff. I'm fiddling with mine right now, and I look a little bit more pink, I think, but it's better than orange.
Yeah.
Well, better to be read than dead. Wait, are we still saying those things?
Hmm.
Um, anyway, yeah, it's been a fun week, a long week. I hope everybody is doing well. We are nearing peak pandemic here in the United States, and
I
it's a
don't.
lot of
Is
drama.
that true?
Yeah, in some states, in New
Oh,
York, it
fair.
is.
Yeah.
Massachusetts, actually, we're here. I think another 2 weeks before we hit peak, which is it's a long time. It's gonna be a long summer. I don't know when I'll get a haircut, so yeah, get used to this.
You should just
Uh,
have this year. Just no haircuts. Just even when it's over and stuff. Just don't do it. Just see how long you
yeah,
can grow it. You've started now. That's what I'm gonna do.
and same with the beard thing. I'm just letting it I mean, I'm occasionally trimming and stuff like that, but I'm
Yeah.
just sort of letting it go. I really still don't like it. And here's a funny AI story with Microsoft. As Zach knows, usually every couple of weeks, I like to throw myself onto howold.net. It's that how-old.net. It's a Microsoft property that was a few years ago. And you submit a picture. They don't save it or anything like that, so don't worry. They have a good privacy thing. But you submit your photo, and it tries to guess your age. And Zach and I used to see these things at like Build and stuff they would have. Like it's part of Azure Learning and stuff like that. And I'm just vain and self-conscious at the same time. So I always want to know how old it thinks. Yeah, I'm self-conscious, but I become vain because I get a good score. So basically, I submit a photo, and usually every week it's on average 10 years off. It says I'm 10 years younger. And that's the kind of
It's not a very good system, but
no, see, I like to think it is a good system.
sure.
I'm just taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And so it gives me a nice little ego boost before I go on video because it's like, oh, I'm not as old as I look. So that's nice. And today I did it, and with the facial hair, it guessed my age perfectly. It's
Wow.
like, so that's good. Although now I feel,
Now you feel old.
yeah, if I was trying to get into bars, this would be cool, but
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not really trying to look older. So yeah, that's a little fun test. But go try that out yourself. See if it's accurate. But yeah. Anyway, I suppose we should get to the news. Enough chitter chatter. Let's talk about this Windows 10 update. It is now official. It was going to be the April update. Now it's the May update. Microsoft, of course, has dispensed with creative names for these updates. And that's probably a good idea because there's not much around this one that would unify it. But Zach, why don't you tell us what we need to know, how we should get it, should we install it, and all that kind of jazz.
Sure. So the May 2020 update, it now has its official name, and that's because it's now available finally in the release preview ring. It's been a long time coming. We've been waiting for this to happen since December or January, maybe. Because this release, to refresh your memories, 20H1 was done in December. They hit the final build mid-December, and they've just sort of been testing that build ever since. They've been updating it with cumulative updates and whatnot, and only this week did they decide, right, now let's put it into the release preview ring, which, it's fine, who cares. It's been in the slow ring for long enough anyway, so they've been getting data and feedback from it. So yes, now in the release preview ring, it has all of the features that 20H1 brings with it, including a new Cortana, which is the biggest new change. Updates to Virtual Desktop, you can now rename them and stuff, and they save across reboots. Plus a whole other sort of just touch-ups and general improvements to the operating system to make it operate a bit better and whatnot. So not a huge release by any means. Also, if you're outside the US right now, Cortana doesn't even work anyway. So essentially, what this update does is remove a feature from your from use. Hopefully, Microsoft for some reason is being a little bit coy about this, and I hope that's just because they're really bad at communication and not because the plan is to just not support people outside the US with Cortana starting with 20H1. The release after that, whenever that comes, will support Cortana in more markets. I think they're already testing it in Italy and stuff. But for some reason, 20H1 is missing out on that support for some reason. But since Cortana is now an app, it can be updated down the line without having a new Windows 10 feature update. So maybe in a few weeks, we'll see Cortana go out to more regions. Because they did announce that, right? When Cortana was moving to this app-based thing, they said, at some point it will work in other countries as well. But they didn't give any ETA for that, unfortunately. So do I recommend you update to it? Yes, I think it's, every Windows 10 update is a good update. It's been in the slow ring long enough now that we know that there aren't any significant problems with it. So it should be all good. Of course, if you do update and there are issues, do submit feedback. Microsoft would love to hear from you. You can get it in the release preview and slow ring. I think you can also download the ISO now. If you go to aka.ms/WIP-ISO, you can download it there as well. So if you want to do a clean install, you can get started with that as well, which is pretty fun. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for the May 2020 update. It's official. It will begin rolling out generally next month. It's the May 2020 update after all, but it will be how it has been with 1903, I think it was as well, or 1909, in that once it hits general availability, it won't automatically install on PCs unless you're running a version of Windows 10 that's out of support. So that will be, it would be 1809, but Microsoft just announced this week that they're extending support for Windows 10 1809 due to the ongoing pandemic. So those of you on 1809 won't actually get this forced on you anytime soon, so you should be fine if you don't want to update to it. But if you're on 1803, you're going to get this, so you might as well just...
Why is Microsoft shoving their updates down our throats?
Because it's secure. Actually, I think they might have extended it for 1803 as well. I don't know. Either way, if you're running on unsupported version of Windows, you will get forced to update.
I, as always, recommend, if you're not an active tester and just running your machine and it's daily and all this kind of stuff, I always recommend just staying on release preview. Release preview is awesome. It's literally the safest thing. The nice thing about release preview, in this case, if you sign into it now through the Windows Update Insider Program feature, you'll get, of course, the May update today, which goes to tell you it's pretty stable. I just upgraded my main desktop PC, which actually I'll talk about that in a minute too. But what's really nice about release previews, you tend to get the app section of Windows is on like a different thing with release preview. The release preview for some reason tends to get like real beta app stuff and stuff with new features. I don't mean beta in the sense that they're unstable. I mean you get the new features first. And it's just really kind of cool. So whenever I talk about your phone or even Skype and some of the inbox apps, the main ones, if you're in release preview, you always tend to get those features first. You even get them sometimes ahead of slow and fast rings, which is weird. But release previews, and also if you're on Surface devices, you get the firmware updates usually a week or two ahead of general release. And again, I've never had any issues with them. By the time it hits that stage, it's already like near finalized. But if you're like, a big user of Surface and stuff and you want, the latest, greatest stuff, definitely go into release preview or something.
Yeah, the release preview ring is essentially where Microsoft tests the final bits before they go out to the public. So the final bits being, this has been in development, it's been tested by other people, this is what we anticipate is the stuff that we want to go out to the public. So it's essentially ready, but they're just testing it a little bit more before those final bits go out to the public. So yeah, I also recommend the release preview ring. I think it's a great ring to get access to things early. And it's, it just works like normal. It's like the production ring, but just early access to a few things, which is pretty cool. Also in the world of Windows this week, a new Insider Preview build. Nothing huge in regards to actual new features in this build. This was 19.608. They've updated the default apps experience inside the modern settings app. This is a change that only 50% of insiders are getting right now, because of course it is. But yeah, now at the top where you choose default apps by file types and stuff, there's now a search box, so you can now just search for the app rather than having to scroll through a long list of file types and programs to set what you want to set, which is kind of nice. They also announced some changes to the Your Phone app, which I think Dan is quite excited about. Features like file drag and drop. So this will only work with Samsung devices, for now at least. But now if you're using the screen preview feature, I can't remember what it's called now, and you want to drag a file from that preview into your desktop or vice versa, you can do that and it will work as you would expect, just like dragging files between folders on your PC. This will work between your PC and phone now, which is super cool. And they've also had done a number of fixes to things like the Galaxy Z Flip, which previously, if you tried to use things like the screen preview feature, the screen would flicker on the Galaxy Flip and stuff. That's all been fixed now. Dan, did they fix the issue where if you try to access it whilst closed, you can't log in?
I can try right now. I don't believe so.
That's the big one, right?
Yeah, because that's going to be relative to the Duo in
Sure,
theory.
Absolutely, I agree.
But yeah, no, it just shows a black screen, it's off.
That might be it's a Samsung issue. Thinking about it, that might be something Samsung has to fix rather than Microsoft.
Right. So kind of interesting. Yeah, I want to talk briefly about the your phone stuff because it is super cool. Yeah,
Go
so
for
this
it.
is unfortunately only limited to Samsung phones and modern ones at that. There's a big list that Microsoft has posted, but yeah, it's some of the S10s, the S20s, the Z Flip. It's actually like around 14 phones or something like that, but some of those are a little bit more obscure, the A series and stuff. But as to why that is, it's complicated. So there may be an exclusive deal between Microsoft and Samsung. We actually don't know. I know OnePlus phones were supported like last year for a little while with the phone screen feature. Um, and I know, and I like OnePlus, they're like the top 5 in the US now for Android. So they're making some progress. So I would say a distant 5. But we don't know if it's what the exact politics are here for this. I will say that one of the reasons why this works so well with Samsung's is that Samsung does in their ROMs put special driver level access. And in fact, on Samsung, it's called linked to Windows, not your phone. And linked to Windows is actually in the system settings. It's its own section, and it natively connects up. And so because of that, it has something to do with Android where you need file write access, which is something Android 10 has, like it's a higher level thing. So Samsung gives that permission automatically. And so there's that thing. And then also Samsung integrates like OneDrive into the My Files app.
Yeah.
Like it's just built right in. Like you just sign in and now your OneDrive stuff shows up there. And also the Gallery app, which doesn't work with 2FA as far as I can tell. I got to tell Samsung about this. But with the Gallery, the Photos app from Samsung, you can also connect up to your OneDrive and have automatic backup. So there is a partnership there that's going on. I don't know if the phone screen stuff, though, is just related to Samsung. But that's the case for now. Now, I know a lot of people are going to ask, like, but Dell can do it. How does Dell do it? And there's some truth to that. Dell Mobile Connect is a really nice app. It's actually a third-party app called Screenovate, and Dell basically rebrands it and works with the company and stuff like that. But Dell requires, it's not just the UWP app. I don't know if it's UWP, but it's an app. I think it might actually be 132. But they have their app, but you also need to download and install a driver to your PC. And also install something to the phone. There's a lot more hackery going on with how Screenovate works. It works well. I'm not, dissing it, but I'm bringing this up as a point of support because Microsoft's theory on your phone is it's supposed to be as simple and basic as possible. Like you literally install your phone app, or if it's already pre-installed, you launch it, connect up through Bluetooth to basically any Android phone, and you're going to get the majority of the features outside of the phone screen one, the screen sharing, which I'll be honest, that's the least used feature I do use with your phone.
Same.
What I use your phone is taking phone calls through the computer, text messaging, of course, and notification management, and also pulling up my photos. I can quickly pull up my photos, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're missing too much with the screen mirroring stuff. It's weird because if you're using it, like in theory, you can have your phone in your pocket, but you have to have it unlocked and all this kind of stuff. But there's a weird point where you're using a mouse and cursor and you're opening apps on there and you're like, I could just pull up my phone. and it'd probably be faster. So there's all that stuff, but we don't know what Microsoft's long-term plans are. They may, roll this out to other devices later on and stuff in terms of support. But even Dell with its Mobile Connect limits, it's only from 2018 Dell laptops and later and certain Android devices. Now, people will quickly point out you can hack this on. There are ways to like side load this on to basically any computer. I was running on an HP, and yeah, it does work. But that's not how companies work. Like companies don't put out software and like, yeah, it'll probably work. And that's the end of their customer support. Like Dell limits it to certain Dell laptops because those are the ones they've done extensive testing on and they know it works without flaw because there is a hardware component here, including the type of Bluetooth you have, Bluetooth LE, and the Wi-Fi for connecting up. So there are limitations here on how it works. And that's why Dell doesn't say, hey, you can install it on any Dell machine. It's only certain ones. And Microsoft Microsoft, don't forget, like your phone works on like Windows 10, but Windows 10 can work on 10-year-old computers, right? Like computers that don't have certain features and advanced things like Wi-Fi Direct. Um, and there's a good chance that there's a lot of computers out there. So they're trying to hit as many users as they can without specific driver support that needs to be installed or that they have to do extensive testing on because that's just massive. Uh, it's not ideal, obviously. And Apple has, of course, AirDrop. And AirDrop works so well because of all the same reasons why everything works well in Apple. They control, there's only a couple Apple laptops or Apple PC, and there's only a couple Apple iPhones. And so they control that whole stack. And if there were third parties making MacBooks, they would have this problem too. But they don't. So it's not an issue. But hopefully, as they develop Windows 10 further, they can build more stuff into it, and hardware catches up. This stuff will roll out.
Yeah. They've also updated the UI a bit for the actual Your Phone app on Windows 10. So the dark mode is now a little less dark, which might anger some people. I've noticed on Twitter there's like an army of people who are like, is it black? No, then I don't want it. It's not real dark
this
mode.
is the black gray. It's the complete black that looks amazing on AMOLED, and then there's the dark gray faction. Because super black, I have to admit, this is kind of true. Super black looks cool because you get this super high contrast, everything pops. The problem with super black is if you have multiple windows open, it gets really hard to see the borders and stuff like that because Microsoft, didn't like Windows 10 used to have like the red borders, something like that little 1 pixel border, and everybody hated that.
It was so ugly.
So they got rid of that, right? But now it gets, sometimes I want to grab the title bar and it's hard because I don't know where it ends the screen, and especially if you have a black background. So gray actually is easier to manipulate, but black looks better. So
I'm actually team gray mode. Not because of that reason. I just think the gray mode actually does look better. But not on a phone. On a phone, I prefer the actual OLED black. But on a PC, I prefer grey. I don't know why, but I just think it looks better on PC. But yeah, so the UI's been updated. The dark mode is now a little lighter. But they've also updated the messages UI as well. Lots of rounded elements now. And also sort of Android-y elements as well. The new message button is pulled straight from Android. That's a Google Material Design Language thing there. And they've just pulled it straight into the Your Phone app for some reason. But overall, this app is, in my opinion, contender for the most beautiful UWP app. Now that Groove Music's gone, which was once the king, right? We used to always say, yes, Groove Music was like the king of fluent design. I actually think this app's pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, so like functionally, Dell Mobile Connect works really, really well. I mean, it's very reliable. Like I said, because they're doing much deeper driver access that you have to install. It's not just an app and all that. That said, aesthetically, man, I find Your Phone way better looking because Dell's app looks like your, 2005 Win32 app, all right, like x86. Like it just looks like, it has no UWP whatsoever in terms of design and looks, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's all white too. There's no dark mode. So it works very well, but it looks not great. Like, I mean, it looks all right. It just, Your Phone does look so much better. And I really like the way, I mean, for me, Your Phone that's why I prefer using Your Phone. So,
yeah. So that's pretty much all the notable changes happening in Windows this week. Amanda Langowski also published a blog post just an hour ago, I think it was now, just giving an update on like her first few weeks as leader of the Insider program. There's no real news in here. I'll read the sort of most interesting bit. So, as leader of the Insider program, I'll be behind the scenes a little more than past leaders, but still working tirelessly on enhancing our listening systems, feature previews, and engagement opportunities. My goal is to connect you to more of the passionate and unique folks that design, code, and monitor the quality experiences you most care about, and provide clarity on how your feedback is informing the way we build amazing experiences for all our Windows 10 customers. So it sounds like what Microsoft is doing. I don't know if this is the actual case, but I don't know how many people were complaining about this before, but a lot of people weren't too happy about Microsoft's use of things like cat emojis and stuff, cat gifs and whatnot in like official announcements and stuff. A sort of more laid back approach to things in the Insider program under previous leaders, Donna and I think Gabe as well. I think Gabe was very much a cat GIF person. But I assume nothing would change here. But it says here, I'll be primarily engaging on the Windows Insider Twitter handle and upcoming virtual events. Blah, blah, blah. So instead of using her personal account, it sounds like she's going to be using the Windows Insider account for like official announcements and stuff. So some people may prefer that change, some people may not. I don't really care. As long as I get new features, that's all I want. I just want new features, guys. And that's yet to happen in the Insider program. It's been so long since we've had a good new feature in Windows, and I'm just really sad about it. But oh well. So yeah, it's basically pretty much it for the Insider program and Windows this week.
Sounds good. Real quick, unrelated news update, I just want to share my current setup. I always think people find this stuff kind of interesting. I'm returning the NV 32-inch all-in-one back to HP. It's a review unit. It's also huge, and it's such an amazing computer. My issue is literally at my desk, I had this 32-inch all-in-one. But behind it was a gaming tower. And the gaming tower has a Core i9 that's overclockable with a 2080 Ti and 64 gigs of HyperX RAM and a SCSI, was it RAID 0 SSD setup. Like, it's awesome. It's also HP. It's the Omen Obelisk, which I haven't reviewed. I really do need to review it. And this is to help me motivate. But I wanted to sort of like, as good as the all-in-one is, it's like, it's like sort of driving, I don't know, a Porsche, but then having like a Lamborghini behind it. It's like, all right, I have that one there. But I will say I did go and buy the Razer Raptor 27-inch display, which I think I've talked about even on the podcast last week. So that came in, and I'm using that now. And there was a shock dropping from 32-inch to 27. I know it doesn't sound like much, but man, 32 inches it's almost too big because it's the reverse. When you go from 27 to 32, you literally have a moment for a good day where you're like, this is too big. This is just too much screen. Because like the mouse, when you try to cursor over, it feels like it takes forever, even when you have a high DPI mouse. Like my mouse is 20,000 DPI, but who uses that? That's insane. But still, all the movements just feel massive when you're doing it. But I got used to it. And plus it was 4K and it looked great. So the Raptor, though, is 27-inch and it's like 2K, but it has better HDR, better color contrast. It's matte. And plus I got it because it does 144 hertz refresh rate. So when I play my games on here, because I have that awesome Core i9 2080 Ti, I can actually hit more than 60 frames. It doesn't make sense to have a 2080 Ti and an i9 and game at 60 frames per second. That's just insulting. So now I have like sort of the best of both worlds. I'll also say I'm actually now used to the 27-inch again, so I'm very happy. And then I went to the office to do some photos, and I brought home something else that's been sitting there for a long time, which are the Razer Nomo Pro speakers. I was using the Razer Nomos before with Chroma. And those are really good, like kind of budget speakers. There's just two of them, but they're powered and they light up and they sound really nice. If you just want desktop speakers, the Pros, it's a whole other level. I think they're $500, but it has a subwoofer that's literally the size of like a trash can. It's huge. So that's underneath my desk right now. And now these speakers have like their own tweeters and stuff, and they're THX certified and all this. And yeah, it's a whole other level. So I'm actually really happy. I mean, how could you not be happy with this gaming setup, right? And if I'm going to use a web browser, it's pretty awesome. But yeah.
On the subject of gaming, real quick, we should also mention that Microsoft opened up the beta for the Minecraft RTX stuff this week.
Right.
Yes. Did you try it out yet?
I did. I tried it out last night. It's jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
It's little like they created 6 levels you can just download for free, and they're basically demo levels. Like they're whole worlds, and you can just go around and do stuff. They're created by NVIDIA, and they're very like. So if you guys don't know, here's the deal, because RTX is confusing. You probably heard RTX a lot, but I'll go over. It's ray tracing, right? And these are NVIDIA's latest cards: the 2060, 2070, 2080, and then they have the TIs and the supers and all this kind of stuff. So the big deal with RTX and ray tracing is the fact that when you create a game and you put like a light source in there, like and there's the sun and it's going to come through the window, like what game developers do, then they literally have to draw in the lights coming in and then create the shadows, and they have to program that in there. And it could be accurate, it could be not accurate. it also probably won't change unless they configured it to actually change, which is a lot of programming, right? RTX takes all this out of the equation because in RTX, when you're developing the game, you can like put the sun or a light source up in the corner, light it up, build your aesthetics, your world, your walls, your floors, your windows, and the light that it creates is actually like real light. That is, it behaves like real light. So it'll hit an object, create a shadow automatically. And that shadow adjusts to your perspective. So if you walk around it, it follows you. So the end result is lighting looks way more realistic and much better. It just really adds this other element to it. Now in the Minecraft, it sounds kind of ridiculous because Minecraft is like all this bit block stuff. You're like, well, how can it matter? But they created these levels, and they're probably like RTX extreme. Like they really went out to give like a wow factor. So the contrast and the lighting and the shadows really extreme, but it looks absolutely amazing. It does take a performance in. I was on a Core i9, like I said, 2080 Ti, 64 gigs. I was getting between 65 and 80 frames per second at 2K resolution. Everything's set to high. Jez Corden, our games editor, was running a 2060. And at one point, he said he was getting like 8 frames per second. But I think eventually he got up to over 30 because there was a driver update. But and what's cool of all of this that you're like, I don't care about gaming PCs, stuff like that. That's fine because Xbox Series X coming out can also support ray tracing, which means you get this kind of for free. And it's neat. So game developers need to adopt this stuff, put into their games, but they are seeing a lot of adoption because it actually saves them work. And you're also seeing like developers going back to old games and adding this feature in to support. So yeah, it's really cool. I miss Minecraft. I don't play Minecraft and I don't get crafting that much, but I miss us playing it, just walking around, because there's something fun about that world. Related to that, I am also playing the Minecraft Dungeons, which comes out slated for the end of, I believe, April. And that's been fun too. So that's more of a top-down, third-person Minecraft world, but it actually has it's sort of like a roguelike dungeon type game. And that's actually a lot of fun too. And the graphics of that look really, really good. Jez did a walkthrough of that. So if you want more info, go to Windows Central and you can look that up. But yeah, Minecraft brand is going strong, as I like to say.
I haven't tried the RTX beta because I'm using a Surface Studio with its measly GTX 965M.
Oh, good Lord.
God, it was good once upon a time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway, hold on a second. I just want to. Oh, I gotta log in.
What are you trying to do?
Onto the YouTubes.
Oh, I can block that guy.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Dankeschön. Oh, now my phone's requesting 2-step verification.
Right, should we move on to our next topic of the week? Surface Book 3 and Surface Go 2 specs. So we talked a bit about this at the end of last week's podcast. We're expecting Microsoft to make some hardware announcements very soon. I'm hearing sometime in May, with shipping a week or so after the announcements. Right now, we don't know how they're planning to make these announcements. They could be via press releases like the iPhone SE this past week, which was simply dropped without any event or any video stream. It was just, here's a press release and go and buy it in 2 days. Microsoft may decide to do the same with the Book 3 and the Go 2, or they may decide to do some sort of virtual event. We have no idea at this time, but we do know they're planning to announce new hardware sometime in May, so that's quite exciting. Dan, do you want to start off with the Surface Book 3 and what we're expecting in regards to specs?
Yeah, so let me bring this up here. Actually, I forgot to memorize the numbers. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I do have.
Well, I can start with the Go 2 because I got the numbers here.
Yeah, start with the Go 2.
The Go 2, this is one that I'm personally more excited about. The Book 3 is great and stuff, but we're expecting its design to basically be the same, which doesn't excite me in any way. It could be available in black. The reason why I say that is because Microsoft usually, whenever there's a refresh of hardware where the external form factor or design doesn't change, to spice things up a little bit, they release a black version. That's what they did with the Surface Pro 6, if you remember. So hopefully we'll see the same with the Surface Book 3. But yes, inside it, we're expecting for Surface Go 2, inside, we're expecting a Intel Pentium Gold 4425Y processor. So that's a slight increase, a slight bump in performance over the 4415Y in the Surface Go 1. So, sorry, I've totally lost what I was saying. Excuse me, back to what I was saying. Yes, regarding the Surface Go 2, there's also going to be an Intel Core M3 8100Y version as well, which should provide quite a bit more performance over the Pentium Gold, as you would expect. But we're also expecting that to cost quite a bit more as well. This could be in the $500 range, right?
This is real important here, because I know a lot of people are making hay of the Core i3. So for those following, by the way, Intel has really crazy names. They have a Y series, they have an M3, and then they have a Core i3. For 10th gen, they're all the same. It's basically, they call it an i3 now. So there is no more Y series or M3. That doesn't mean, but the i3 is that, right? So by that I mean they're dual core still. But they get better performance. But the important thing here is it's not like, oh, they got this new chip and they're going to put it all their devices, everybody wins. This is a more expensive chip, which is why it wasn't used in the previous generation, because they could have put an M3 into the last Surface Go. My guess is here, so Surface Go starts at $399 with the Pentium Gold. This has to be $550.
Right.
500 or 550. It's probably going to be at least $100 markup. Like, it just has to be. But that's an option for people. But the problem here is you throw in the SSD and then the RAM and all this kind of stuff. You start bumping up the price to now you're like entry-level Surface Pro 7. And so then it's like, oh, now what? And they have to at least have a $50 or $100 margin between those two. And that's going to be real crucial.
I think the reason why Microsoft is doing this is because if you remember, back in the Surface Pro 4, even 5 days, I think, they did have an Intel Core M3 version, right, of the Pro series. And that was the cheapest you could go. But everybody was saying, oh, don't buy that. It's way too underpowered. That SKU for the Pro no longer exists. It starts at a Core i5. So perhaps what they've just done there is they're saying, right, well, maybe the Surface Go should just have the M3 in it and cost $500 to $600, where the old Surface Pros were at their entry-level price. So now it's a better story, right? It's like the Surface Go's $399, but if you want more power, you can get the $500 or $600 Surface Go, rather than saying, the entry-level Surface Pro is $600, but it's terrible, don't buy it. So perhaps that's why they're doing it this way. Regarding RAM, we're still expecting 4 gigs or 8 gigs, nothing more than that. Again, this is only like a 10 to 11-inch device after all, along with 64 gigs or 128 gigabytes of storage. I did see some reports suggesting it might even have 256 as a configurable option, which is nice. Just like the Surface Go 1, we're also expecting an LTE variant of sorts. I don't know if that will be part of the Gold version, the Intel Pentium Gold, or the Intel Core M3 model. I assume it'll be the M3 model, right? Because the LTE chip is a significant premium. And if this M3 model is already $550, stick the LTE in there, and that makes it a little bit more worthwhile. Design-wise, we're not expecting any significant changes. I have heard whispers from a single source, so I haven't been able to confirm this from multiple people, that this will have an 11-inch display with thinner bezels. So that could be the only significant changes in regards to design and whatnot. And this is the sort of biggest complaint most people had with the Surface Go, right? The screen and the bezels.
Yeah.
The screen was too small, the bezels were too thick. But the reason the bezels were that size is because you needed the keyboard space, right? We've talked about that before. And I assume the 10-inch screen was in there because it was the cheapest Microsoft could find or whatever. But perhaps...
Yeah, this is also important too. So Microsoft Surface devices tend to be a little bit more expensive. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, some of it you can maybe say, oh, there's a Surface tax, but their displays are custom displays.
Yeah.
And I've talked a lot about this on this podcast. One of the reasons why manufacturers are just slowly going to 16 by 10 and just to switch over is because they have to source these displays. And they don't, Dell doesn't make displays. They go to Sharp, and Sharp needs to start to make 16 by 10, and then it has to do with costs and how much you can buy in bulk and orders. And that's why you're seeing Dell now switching all to 16 by 10 XPS line, because they can reuse that, order more of them, it lowers the cost. Microsoft, though, all their displays are custom displays. First of all, they're 3x2. They also have this, the touch feature for inking and support and all that kind of stuff. And that's my cat screaming in the background, by the way. Yeah, she's an old lady. She's okay, by the way. This is just for, she'll be quiet in a minute. She just woke up from a nap. But so all their displays are custom, and so it drives up the price a little bit because of that. That's why you don't find Surface displays in any other laptop out there. That said, it kind of works in their favor too, because in this instance, it'd be weird if they couldn't do this. And what we're saying is the Surface Go is going to look the same physically, same size and dimensions. And I mentioned that's probably the case because I just reviewed Kensington's really expensive dock for it. And there's little chance Kensington, I think, would go make that this late in the cycle for the Surface Go if Surface Go 2 wasn't going to support it 100%. But what they could do is put a larger display in it, which then obviously shrinks the bezels down. And because Microsoft sources custom displays, the cost difference shouldn't be that big of a deal from them because there are other 10-inch 3x2 Surface display out there. So they just need to switch over to like something bigger. That's going to be custom, and the price should relatively be the same, and we all kind of win. Now, why they didn't do that at the beginning, who knows? There's probably engineering constraints, maybe because of battery, the radios go behind the bezels. There's a lot of possible reasons. I tell you, though, if Surface Go is still going to be kind of Surface Go 2, to me, it's going to be still slightly disappointing because it's not ARM. And this whole weird Intel Pentium and M3, these aren't, like, in my opinion, ideal choices, but there's nothing else out there. And don't tell me about AMD. AMD can't go there yet. Not this light and underpowered. But if they do put in a larger display, say 11-inch or close to 10.8 or something like that, and those bezels are thinner, for me, that goes a long way to make the Surface Go much better. First of all, the 10-inch display was nice. It's tiny, though. Like, it's just like the Pro X. If you can give me a bigger display but the same size, that's a win-win. So I'd be really happy, and I really, really hope they do. Imagine if they offered Surface Go 2 in black.
That'd be great. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
yeah.
when design doesn't change much, they usually offer a black version just to make it look newer and stuff. So perhaps we'll see that.
Yeah.
Someone linked this article from Platform Decentral that was published back in February. I've never seen this article before, and I don't know who their sourcing is or whether they're reliable, but I'm going to read what they're saying here anyway. Microsoft is slated to release its successor to its best-selling Surface tablet, the Surface Go, and in something called the Surface Go X. And a few specs have surfaced online, which could point to an imminent announcement, blah, 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 this spring. The rumored price of the Surface Go X is also interesting. It's said to be starting at $329 without a keyboard accessory in the base configuration. I don't know if this is an accurate report or if there's just somebody pretending.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that last part. I was reading something in comments. Sorry, what was it?
So there's this article here that's basically saying that Microsoft is going to do a Surface Go X this spring, powered by Snapdragon 7C and starting at $329.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
I don't know if this is a real report. So I'm not putting any credits behind this report, but someone is saying that, so perhaps that will be announced as well. But a Surface Go X and a Surface Go 2, that'd be very, very interesting, and especially if the Go X is cheaper than the Go 2, right? And ARM. I'd get that one straight away. Oh my god, that'd be amazing. And apparently they're saying it's so they can compete with the $329 iPad, which makes sense, right? Because the iPad is currently $70-$80 cheaper than the Surface Go is, and arguably more powerful than the Surface Go as well. So a Surface Go X powered by ARM at $329 would be amazing.
Obviously, I love this idea, and you and I would both grab it in a second, right? Mm-hmm. My issue with this, at least as an argument of why I don't think they would do this, I feel like that really kind of confuses things a bit. But I guess it depends, right? If they make Surface Go 2 with LTE, that's weird. But if they make the LTE version Surface Go X, then that can maybe work in that favor.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't think this is going to happen is because we've not heard this from anyone else. I've not heard it from sources. No one who would normally know about this has said this is happening. Although that said, we did hear that there were ARM versions of the Surface Go, the original Surface Go. So we know Microsoft has definitely been thinking about it internally. So who knows at this point? But yeah, I've never heard of this before. So like I said, we're not saying this is going to happen. We don't know if this report is accurate or anything, but it would be pretty cool if that is what they did for
Yeah,
sure.
because the difference there is it would be like the Surface Pro X in a sense they could make it thinner, rounded, more
Yeah.
rounded edges, obviously larger display. It would get slightly better battery life and have the LTE version. And this ties into something we've had an issue with in the past when it comes to Microsoft rumors, which is we hear things and it's just like, oh, we hear there's this one product it's going to have this option. Like the original, let me clear example. Surface Pro 7's original rumor was it was going to be an LTE version and as well as a ARM version of the Surface Pro 7.
Right.
That didn't happen. What happened was there's a whole other device that branched off that's the Pro X. And so we may see that repeat with the Surface Go too. And that may be the reason why we're hearing these conflicting rumors. Oh, it's going to have an 11-inch screen. Like maybe Surface Go 2, Intel still has that 10-inch display.
Maybe, yeah, because there is a render in this article. I don't know if it's official or fan made or not, but it looks amazing. How have we not seen this article before?
I don't know, because it's probably not from a source we've
It's
heard.
probably not real as well. We're getting our hopes up for nothing, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, yes, the Surface Go 2. We are at least expecting a new Surface Go of some kind this spring, with a slightly larger display and whatnot. Well, I say I've heard the largest display from one source. I haven't been able to confirm that with any other sources. But a Surface Go 2 is definitely on the cards and is definitely happening. But there's also a Surface Book 3 happening, and I've just realised Dan has walked away. So, I guess I'm gonna have to stall. Oh, he's back. Welcome back, Dan.
Sorry, I had to leave for a second.
Yes.
I didn't hear a thing you said. How's it
Surface Book 3.
So Surface Book 3. Yeah, so again, this is hard. We haven't had a lot of solid reporting on Surface Book 3 and what to expect. So I want to sigh because what has come out so far is not that exciting.
Yeah.
And I want to set the bar here for how excited you should be for Book 3. Right now, my expectations, and I think is the realistic ones, this is basically an internal refresh. It's going to look kind of the same. I'm sure the displays a little bit better, this and that, but it really comes down to newer processors, newer GPUs, maybe a Quadro option, so Quadro graphics. So this could be part of just like how they did with Surface Laptop 3 15-inch. There's two versions. There's a consumer AMD one, and then there's the business enterprise Intel one. Like they've always done this. There are a bunch of Surface. All the Surface devices have enterprise versions. They basically just ship with Windows 10 Pro. The Laptop 15 is the first one that actually has like actual hardware differences. So I can see them doing that with Book 3, where they have like maybe the 15-inch version. There are two. There's a consumer one. It'll be, of course, NVIDIA and Intel, and you can run whatever you want. But there may be a business version which runs like a Xeon processor and Quadro. And if you don't know what those are, then you definitely don't want these devices. These are for engineers and CAD, and they need specific software that's certified to run with Quadro and Xeon. It has the drivers are way more stable, and these are not systems built for gaming. You can kind of game on them, but like NVIDIA doesn't optimize. This isn't like GeForce. They don't optimize these cards for that, and so they're not very good for gaming. But if you're like a pro, you're doing MATLAB and CAD and engineering, these are sort of things you want. And you find them in what are called workstations. So Lenovo makes a bunch of these, and so does Dell. Dell, in fact, has a version of the XPS 15. I've got its exact name now because it's some weird number. But they have the exact same laptop. It just has a different name. It's sold in business channels, and it has Xeon and Quadro graphics. So that's one expectation. But if you're a consumer, you probably don't care about that too much. If you're a scientist or an engineer, that's something to be actually excited about. I think it's actually really cool. The processors themselves are going to be 15 watts again, apparently. That could TDP, that is, it can ramp up to 25 watts, which is currently how they are. They're just newer 10th gen. Now, I have a lot of people going like, why are they still using these? Why can't they just throw in the Ryzen 9 series? And it's just physics. You guys got to remember, the Surface Book 3 is designed to be a tablet computer. That is, the display pops off. As a result, the majority of the hardware, the processor, the RAM, the SSD, is literally behind the display. And that display is not very thick. It's actually amazing when you pick up, if you just attach the tablet, how light it is and how much stuff is in that, right? But there's no fans in that thing. There's not even venting in there. So there is venting and there are fans. I'm confusing myself. But there are a lot of thermal restrictions what you can do there because there's not a lot of space and not a lot of power. Now, Surface Book 2 gets good battery life, but if you were to put a 35 or a 45 watt chip in there, that takes a huge hit on battery. This is why the XPS 15 ships with a 99 watt hour battery, the largest you can put in a laptop. And that still gets you maybe 7 or 8 hours when you put in like a Core i7 or i9 chip, even only 6 hours with the i9. And that's with the largest battery possible. Book 3 doesn't have that. And so when you combine all this stuff, I tell people if you want a juggernaut laptop, one that has like all the, it's just a Core i9 or a Ryzen 9, and you want like NVIDIA RTX 2080 or 2070, you start with that. It's like, those are the two things I want for hardware. And then you build the laptop around the thermal restrictions and power constraints of that chip. Surface Book was never designed to be like that. And because they have to put stuff behind the display, they simply can't. There's a reason why gaming laptops don't put the processor behind the display. It's not better. It's worse. The one exception would be like the Asus ROG mothership thing, which is basically a giant tablet PC. And they did that. But the thing is like ridiculously thick because of it. So these are just constraints. Now, that said, what I think Microsoft could do, or Microsoft should do, is very easy. You create Surface Laptop Pro. Surface Laptop Pro, built from the ground up to be this MacBook Pro 16 competitor. And you build it around all these high-end graphics and processors. It's all in the base. The screen doesn't detach. It's just a straight laptop that's just very powerful. It's going to weigh 4 pounds, maybe 4.5 pounds. It's going to be a big device, but that's what you have to do. Listen, I have the Asus, was it the Zephyrus ROG G14? I think, okay, it's 4 pounds, just under 4 pounds. It's a thick, pretty big laptop. It's beautiful. It's nice size, but that thing gets super hot, like really, really hot. And it requires a lot of power. I'll also say if you do go to 35 or 45 watts, the G14, the Asus, has a 180 watt power supply. That's for a 35 watt processor and for the RTX 2060. 180 watts. Surface Book 2 uses 102 watts. All right. So you got to now get 78 extra watt hours to power the thing, which means you're going to get a bigger brick to take around. It also means you're using that much more power on battery, and that's going to definitely affect battery life. Do you want worse battery life than Surface Book 3? I don't know. We have seen a rumor that there's a new charger that I believe is 127 watt for Surface Book 3, or presumably at least it is. So that suggests there is going to be more thermal room here. They are going to be bumping up the power, and that may be related to the graphics card and even how they're clocking the processor. So this stuff could be more powerful, but you can't just drop in a 45 watt or 35 watt chip into this thing and be like, you're still going to get the same battery life, and it's not going to be any hotter, and it's going to cost the same. That's the other thing. If you drop in that chip in these graphic cards, you're going to bump up the price, at least by $200, maybe $400. And that's fine. You usually just don't see that in the middle of a product's life cycle, because that's changing things. You don't go like, oh, here's a $2,000 laptop. The next version is $2,400. Like, you notice how they always try to keep the same base starting price on these things? So there's a lot going in here. I think the solution, make a Surface Laptop Pro, and don't do that for Book 3. I think Book 3 is going to largely remain the same, and we're just going to get these sort of modest upgrades. There are some rumors that there may be other Intel 10th Gen chips, either Comet Lake or Ice Lake. There was a rumor that they're testing with AMD. I think any of those are plausible. AMD does have new U-series chips, which are 15 watt. I haven't used them yet. I know there's a lot of hype around AMD. A lot of people just give AMD the benefit of the doubt. I think that's wrong. AMD has not proven itself in the laptop space yet. The new G14 looks promising. It's really nice. It's a different class chip, though. That's a 35 watt H-series. We're talking U. I don't know. And this is what Microsoft is testing. So I think that's where Surface Book 3 is going to be. And so help me God, I'm going to be really upset and I'm pretty positive I am going to be upset that Microsoft isn't going to do anti-glare displays. That's really the only thing I want, is just anti-reflective coating on their displays. Everybody's doing this now. Dell does it the best. HP's doing it. I think Lenovo's starting to do it. My watch has it, by the way. I'll talk about that later. But my watch has anti-glare for the sapphire glass. This is common sense to do this. And there are a few companies still not doing it. And I used to just kind of like hem and haw a little bit. I'm going after the company. If you give me a product that doesn't have this feature, I'm taking points off in the review because it's nonsense. There's no benefit in a world where you look at a display and like, oh, thank God I could see all the lights in the room reflecting off my display and hurts my eyes. That's a great feature. And I'm really worried that they're not going to do this. That along with HDR, which again, HDR, Dolby Vision, you can, again, complain, oh, it's not real HDR, which hits 1,000 nits. It's fine. I'm telling you, I use devices with Dolby Vision. They look better. They look really, really good now. I find the Surface arguments about how awesome their displays are is trailing. Dell and HP and Lenovo are all putting out really, really, really good displays these days. I'm talking 100% DCI-P3s, anti-reflective technology, HDR 400, HP's SureView screen protection with touch, with inking. Like, these guys are not messing around. And I don't find the whole, our screens are color accurate. It's not holding up anymore. Ooh, I went on a rant. What did you do to me, Zach?
I don't know. I've just been thinking about that Surface Go X ever since you started talking. I really want that to be real. I'm going to be really sad if it doesn't happen now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I said at the beginning, I'm not super interested in the Surface Book 3 based on the rumors that we've seen and whatnot. It doesn't seem to be that exciting of an update. And so yeah, if I'm more interested in the Surface Go 2 or possibly the Surface Go X if that gets announced. I'm just picturing a mini Surface Pro X now because the Surface Pro X is beautiful. I love that hardware. And if it's, oh man, this would be it. And if it did launch at $329, that would be the biggest tech story this year. Well, one of them possibly.
There's truth to it. So, and the claim, the Surface Go is the most popular Surface device.
But it's the cheapest. But it's actually, I think it's really good. A lot of reviewers panned it. I really like the Surface Go.
It's a fun device. Yeah. It just could be so much better, right?
Right.
And if they do either make a Surface Go X, and the funny thing about that rumor is it's like, there's logic behind why that would happen. I just gave the example of the Pro 7 and Pro X.
But it's also literally my dream. It's like if I had a dream about the perfect Surface Go, this is it. That's why I'm really not putting credits into this. I don't think it's going to happen.
But then conversely, there's the whole reason not to get excited, which is, Microsoft I don't want to say tends to disappoint, but they are a little bit more conservative sometimes. Yeah. Like I said, on the screen technology, I find them like one or two generations now behind everybody. Sure. I don't find, and I know they have different, goals in terms of inking and its level of accuracy and stuff like that. But again, like I find HP uses on their laptops Wacom 2.0 AES stuff, or they use even the Intrig stuff, and it's just as good inking. I don't find the accuracy argument on Surface, and maybe an artist can speak better to this, but I don't find all the effort that they put into the engineering and that co-processor that goes behind the side. I just don't see the actual results compared to other devices as being such a dramatic difference. But
yeah.
And also, we tend to hear a lot of these crazy rumors. Like, how many years ago did we hear about virtual bezels? Because Microsoft has a patent somewhere that says that they have like real bezels, but then there'd be a real bezel, but then there'd be like a virtual bezel, which means it's drawn on by the GPU. And when you're touching that part of the screen, it doesn't act like a touch screen. But then when you take your hand away or you switch to tablet mode or something like that, like those can magically go away. Like that sounds a really great idea, but it's never happened, So I always find before Surface events, we always build up these rumors come out and they're just like, it's going to be this, it's going to have this. And then it comes out and you're like, and everybody's like disappointed and everybody's like, Microsoft sucks. On the other hand, Microsoft sometimes does things at these events that totally catch, by surprise. Surface Duo caught us
Yeah.
all by surprise. The original Surface Book announcement was a total surprise. It's fun times. We'll see.
Yeah.
Just don't get your hopes up too high on this
I
stuff.
know my hopes are already too high, and this is a report that has no prior, sourcing. I've never heard of this website before, so who knows?
Yeah, I
Who
don't know
knows
either.
indeed. So yeah, that's pretty much the two big sort of products we're expecting to be announced this May. Like we said in last week's episode, we're also expecting the earbuds, of course. Headphones 2 is very likely. A new Surface dock, which is quite interesting.
Yes.
I think we actually talked about that as a possibility last week, but yeah, reports have since come out that's store listings are suggesting that there will be a Surface Dock 2. We don't know what's new about it, but I would assume it has USB-C inside, because if it doesn't, that'd be crazy. And then of course Surface Duo. Now the Surface Duo is the kind of outlier here in that we are expecting it to go on sale this summer. It won't be launching around the same time as the Go 2 and the Book 3. We're expecting those to start shipping in May, assuming there aren't any further delays, because these announcements coming in May are already delayed. They were supposed to be announced at the beginning of April, and that's been pushed back a number of times. So assuming they don't get delayed any further, the Book and the Go will launch in May, but the Surface Duo won't be launching until June, July at the earliest. And there's a number of reasons as to why that is. But the question is, will Microsoft announce the Duo's availability in May as well, or will they decide to keep quiet on that and sit on that for another month or so? That's the question. I guess it would depend on how they do the announcement, because if this was an actual event that we were going to fly into and stuff, they would just do all the announcements there, of course. But since this is now not happening, that's not happening, it's now going to be either virtual or via press releases. Microsoft can stagger those. They can do the Go 1 week, the Book the other week, and the Duo the next month or something. So we're going to have to see how they plan to do that.
Yeah, dock is definitely way overdue,
Yeah.
and they gotta get rid of things like DisplayPort, or I think that's one they gotta get rid of, or HDMI. I forgot. There's like some major flaws or just oldness with the original dock. We have seen internal proposals to have a GPU ability for the dock. That is, you add a GPU. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. I don't know. That's something to think about.
We did see years ago now, it feels like. It must have, actually, I think it was years ago. We saw documents that were talking about a Surface dock that had things like a hard drive in it or an SSD in it, and Wi-Fi connectivity for things like backups. You could have it as a hub for media and files, and you'd back up to it in the house and stuff. But I think that's a little bit, like, that was more them just hypothesizing ideas rather than actually building out products.
Development. Yeah, earbuds are interesting. I'm the only one that's really excited about earbuds. I know some people, I keep going off about this, about how people think they look goofy. And if you wear AirPods, I can't take you seriously, because like those are the goofiest looking things I've ever seen. I don't care how many people use them. Every time I see someone on TV using them, I'm like, you look like an idiot. You just look dumb. I get it's okay that it's like a collective hallucination and delusion. We're walking around wearing these things looking totally goofy. And we're like, well, it's just the way Apple AirPods work. So we'll accept it. But I guarantee you, if Apple came out with a redesigned AirPods, people would be clapping like, oh, nice. Yeah, we love the new ones. No one's going to go, oh, bring back the old ones. The old ones look better. That won't happen. But I'm excited about the earbuds. I really do kind of want them. I think they look cooler. Yeah, and we'll see what the Surface headphones too, if those come out too. Of course, those are presumably be in black. Would be interesting.
Yeah.
Whew, that was a lot of Dan ranting. I apologize. I think I did take some caffeine before this podcast, and I think it kicked in. HP laptops. All right, so let's do that. There's a lot of them. HP announced basically a refresh to all of its Envy line. So if you don't know, there's Pavilion, Envy, and then Spectre. And that's based on price. Spectre the most expensive, Envy is middle, Pavilion is budget. I think there's even something cheaper than that. Dell does the same thing too. They have their XPS line as their big one, and then Latitude and stuff. So anyway, this is for the Envy line. They have two 13-inch ones. There's a 13-inch regular laptop. I have the actual old one here on the floor. It's actually one of my favorite like laptops. And I mean this in the sense of like, this is a laptop. It starts at, I think, $1,000, sometimes $900. but it has a really nice display, and it has its it raises when you like open the display up. It brings up the back end ergo lift that I think Asus calls it. It has that built into it. It's one of my like this is a laptop that like if I didn't have a laptop 3 or my Pro X or even the XPS 13, like I would use this laptop as my daily. Like it's got precision touchpads now. It's just it's a really, really good laptop. Great audio. It's metal. Like it's just awesome. So they updated that. They took off the top firing speakers, which I was kind of mad about, but they did that on Spectre too. And honestly, it worked out well because their audio is so good now. So the speakers are on the bottom edge, but it's on an angle. So it clears your lap. But because of that, they made the deck significantly shorter. It still has enough throw for your wrist, but it's just smaller. And because of that, they were able to shrink down the bottom display because, HP always had that large bottom display. So that's gone now. So this looks more even. This is a great looking laptop. It's Intel 10th gen. You can get all the different types of configurations for it. And it starts, I think, at $1,000. There's also now an X360 version. So if you want one that turns into a tablet, this is that. That one is interesting because that one's AMD. So that's using a new Ryzen 4000 Series U stuff. So this is the brand new chips, right? That starts at $650, I believe. No, sorry, $699. So $700. I think that's the price. And that's like, it's really good for what you're getting because you're going to get a really good processor, Radeon graphics, full HD display, inking supports, and it comes in this nightfall black, they call it. And HP doesn't really do black laptops that often. And this thing looks really good. Like the screen bezels look nice on it. And it just looks, go check it out. It looks really, really nice. I love the design of this. And like I said, when it comes to the Envy and Spectre, I prefer Envy's design. Spectre has gotten too flamboyant for me. It just looks too chromy and too angular cuts. It's just a little too flashy. But Envy is very stripped down. It's just hard angled, very squared, and it just looks neater and more minimalist. They also have two 15-inch ones coming out. The Envy 15, which goes up against the MacBook Pro 16, that's a heck of a thing. This is a laptop I would use. It has top firing speakers. It kind of looks like a MacBook. It's all silver. It has relatively small bezels. Still has a little bit of big one on the bottom. But you get a huge trackpad. You do get a fingerprint reader built into it. But it really comes down to the power of this thing. So it's going to run up to a Core i9. This is the H series. This is the good stuff. Up to a Core i9 and up to an RTX 2060. Like that's a potent combo that would kind of blow away the MacBook Pro 16, even quarter maxed out. The display, though, this is where I talk about HP is not messing around. 15.6 inch up to 4K AMOLED touch, bright view, 400 nits. It does HDR. It's color calibrated, so I believe it's 100% DCI-P3. Like this is a awesome looking laptop, and it's got all the ports: 2 Type-C Thunderbolt 3s, Type A, 2 Type A's, HDMI, and it has an SD card reader, something that the Macs don't do. So you get all your ports, SD card. It has Thunderbolt 3s, I mentioned. They're VESA certified displays. The pixels per inch is 282. A MacBook Pro is only 226. Look at that. So this thing kind of beats on paper a MacBook Pro 16 in every which way. Starting price is what is it? $1,350. That's the starting price. We don't know what a Core i9 would go up to, but it's $1,350 gets you in the door with a 4K display. I think the i7 and all that kind of stuff. To compare, the MacBook Pro 16 starts at $2,400. That's $1,000 difference right there. I think this thing looks awesome. I'm really, really excited about it. They also made a 360 version, which looks really nice. That one is also interesting because it has AMD again in it. It's the exact same as the X360 13, all the same specs, but it bigger. But that also has an Intel version. And the Intel version is $150 more, which is super interesting, right? Because that backs up the theory that AMD can do more than Intel cheaper. And now you're seeing that. Like we should be able to get both those laptops and directly compare them. And we'd actually get a true gen to gen comparison between those two. But these are all just great looking devices. Like I said, if you look at the NV15, they really have this clean minimalist design language. I just think it looks awesome. They also announced update to the ZBook series. Now, ZBooks I never personally covered because they're kind of hideous looking. They're workstation laptops. They had thick plastic bezels. They were heavy. The audio was terrible on them, but they were super powerful. They ran like the Quadro and Xeon stuff, and people needed them for work. They threw them out the window and redesigned them. They look really nice now. So the ZBook, there's two. There's a ZBook Create and ZBook Studio. One is going to be Xeon Quadro. The other one is going to be Intel NVIDIA. And you can actually use out the second one for gaming or content creation and all that. That you can get up to a 2080S graphics card in and a Core i9. Also has a supremely color accurate 4K display. It weighs just under 4 pounds, which is crazy. It's lighter than the MacBook 16. This thing's, I mean, that's a powerful, powerful laptop. And under 4 pounds and has a decent battery life. Like, now that doesn't come out till August. I should mention all the other NV stuff is coming out. They do have their NV 17, which is out now, actually, which is kind of cool. And then the other ones are coming out early May. And the ZBook comes out, I believe, in August. So keep an eye out for that stuff. But go check them out. These are really just nice looking laptops. Also, briefly, because I know we're running long here and I'm talking a hell of a lot this time. This goes up into what I've been talking about. I did an editorial this week talking about this divergence in laptops that we're seeing. And I'm predicting it's going to continue as a trend. That is, we're going to see a lot of these sort of very powerful workstation level laptops that are like at the 15-inch range that are just 2080s, Core i9s, just like really, really powerful things, 4K displays. You know, you can do all sorts of stuff. You're going to see going that direction, and you're going to see things going to ultra-thin light books, things like the Galaxy Note 9 and some new stuff that's coming out. And because they reflect the different jobs that are really being created out there. You have creators, people are like, I need to do 4K or 8K video editing. I crunch a lot of numbers in MATLAB and CAD, and I just need localized, discrete processing in front of me. Then you have other people like myself and like Zach too, a lot of times. We don't need any of that. We want and prefer super thin, super light, long battery life, always connected. And we don't need to have a Core i9, a 2080 Ti, or even a 2060. And when you combine that latter category, these super thin clients, with Azure, so for cloud computing, game streaming, you can do a lot of that stuff remotely, right? Because that's going to change how pretty soon you will be able to do on the Surface Pro X, Xbox level gaming, which is crazy. So why do I need a 2060 laptop, right? But I'm going to see, I predict this trend is going to continue. We'll see Microsoft move towards a streaming operating system in the next 5 years or so. This is just where I see the industry going. It's a big thing. There will always be Ultrabooks, the 13, 14-inch ones that we just talked about. Those will always be there. I'm not saying that stuff's going away. I'm just saying you're going to see the major categories separate in this direction. You're going to see a lot more innovation going on in those two areas versus the straight down Ultrabook. Yeah, that's the end of that one. Zach, what do you think about all that stuff since?
I think it's great.
Yeah, you're like I was reading comments. I wasn't listening.
No, I'm actually trying to find out if this GoX thing's real.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry.
I doubt.
I doubt it as
doubt
well. I don't want to put any. Let's not get anyone talking about. It's fake. Let's just say it's fake, and if it's a real, it'd be a nice surprise. Anyway, should we talk about the NBA deal and the Jedi contract thing? I know you got to talk some more. Okay, I'll try and introduce this because I don't really follow any of this. I could talk more to the Jedi contract rather than the NBA stuff, but. Pretty much this week, Microsoft put out a blog post sort of questioning whether Amazon's sort of rebuttal to the result of the contract deal and whatnot is allowed, more or less, right? Because essentially what happened back whenever it happened, I can't remember now, Microsoft went into an agreement with the government to provide services or whatever it was, I can't remember now. And Amazon said, hey, no, that's not fair, stop. And now that process has stopped, unfortunately, whilst they review it and see whether the actual it's legal and allowed and stuff. But Microsoft this week basically just said, yeah, but the only reason Amazon wanted just, Amazon put themselves in that position to be denied the contract because they charged too much. And Microsoft obviously came in at a lower cost and provided the better package, and the government went with Microsoft and Amazon, and it's Amazon's fault that the government didn't go with them. And that's pretty much all they were saying, right? There wasn't too much else to it. But Amazon really is trying to stop this contract and trying to get them to reconsider it. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, the info coming out suggests that Amazon is crying foul here, but they don't have much to stand on. The internal review said, nope, sorry. Basically, what happened was Amazon bid too high on this. There was no favoritism given. There was no bias. It doesn't look like anything improper happened here. And what it looks like is Amazon wants a do-over on this process and wants to rebid because it's sort of like if you lost an eBay auction and like you went to eBay and like, hey, that wasn't fair. Someone did this and he was cheating because he was using this. And then they did an investigate and you're like, we should do it over again because now you're going to lowball it or something. And it looks like it's not going to happen. So this is a big deal because this isn't just, it's a contract for $10 million, which is obviously huge. But it's more than that, right? Because this is about getting your foot in the door. It's not like Microsoft comes in, sets up all their computers, goes to Azure cloud computing and does all this stuff. And then they're like, all right, well, we're done. And then that's it. These are turned into long-going contracts. And if they do a good job, the government goes, hey, well, we got this other thing. You want to fix that? And like it turns into a bigger contract over time. So that's why it's like it's a big foot in the door, but it opens that door, right? So it's definitely big. It seems like Microsoft's going to prevail here. Sorry, Amazon. There was some like concern that Amazon had more people already working on with top security clearance. And Microsoft didn't have a lot of their internal stuff or their staff cleared. And I've gone through this process before. I used to do education stuff with the government, CIA. It's on my LinkedIn. You can go check it out. But the whole clearance thing is a process you have to go through. Now, Microsoft's doing that now. They're getting their employees cleared. And if you ever get top security clearance, it's like a certification. You have to renew it every couple of years. But like when you go for jobs and you put that at the top there, like that opens a lot of doors. Like it's one way to, like, you can basically get a job at Microsoft right now if you have top security clearance and you do anything remotely with computers because they need people with those access. Amazon was saying they had more people, more stuff around that. But Microsoft's now catching up and doing that kind of work, which is expected. All interesting stuff, but yeah, it doesn't look like, anything improper happens. Related NBA news. So yeah, this is kind of a vague contract that was apparently signed. NBA is going to use Microsoft Azure. This is more sometimes about their back-end stuff, how the apps work, viewing cameras and collecting data, giving fans multiple camera options to the website, and using the power of data and AI to sort of enhance people's viewing experience. There's also something to do with Surface devices. They're going to use Surface devices in some capacity. We don't know what that means. We don't know if that's going to be like how the NFL does it, where if you watch the NFL, they always have Surface devices set up in front of them, clear product placements. And then, of course, they have them on the sidelines and it says Surface. We don't know if that's going to happen with the NBA. It could, but no details yet. But yeah, all they got to do now is get baseball, maybe hockey, I guess, or UFC. That'd be kind of cool. I'd be like that UFC one.
Is it the NBA who already have the Surface deal?
No, the NBA.
Who has the Surface deal where they have to use the Surfaces? NFL. That's all right. Do they still call them iPads?
that was like 3 years ago. No, that was like just a one-time thing. Some announcer said it. I mean, yeah, that was actually maybe 4 years ago. Even that was something a while ago. But yeah, right brings that up. That's right up there with Clippy and stuff like that. That lived down. Yeah. But I mean, these are big deals, right? It gets their devices out in front of people, so hopefully we'll see that. But these are contracts that could have gone to Google or Samsung or Apple maybe, but it went to Microsoft because it's not just about the device, right? That's part of it, but it's all the back end cloud stuff that Microsoft delivers that's part of this package. That's really Microsoft's strength. It's end to end. We have the device level, but we also have the cloud level and everything in between we can do for you guys. And that's one of the reasons why the government liked it too. Also, a report came out today, backed up reporting we did last week regarding Department of Defense rolling out Microsoft Teams. That's part of a different contract. But due to the work from home stuff, yes, people in the government need to work from home too. They've been accelerating and they've been like rapidly deploying. So a bunch of numbers came out about that today, just how fast and quickly the Department of Defense has been rolling out Microsoft Teams. So that's pretty nice as well. So yeah, Microsoft's doing quite well. You may be still sad that there's no Windows Phone, but the company is far from failing, and in fact, seems to be doing quite well. But hopefully, we'll see more for the Surface stuff. All right, I think I'm out of steam.
Yeah.
Can talk about quickly how I switched to analog watches this week.
Go for it.
Yes, I've been going off about smartwatches now for a few weeks, and I really do like wearables. But working from home, I found I definitely don't need a smartwatch because I'm usually in front of the computer and a notification comes in and then my phone goes off and my watch goes off. And then I just went down the rabbit hole and fell in love again with actual analog watches. And this is a very guy thing. I think guys in my 20s, I had a friend that was really into watches. I could not care less. You might as well be talking about like a Model T car. I was just like, I don't care. Now that I'm older, man, I really do like these classic watches. And so I bought a couple of them, and it's just a whole rabbit hole I went down. We'll see what happens with the Duo, but here, I'll hold one up in front of the display. This is a nice Citizen Pilot watch.
Wow.
Yeah, super fancy, right? It's just so cool. This one you can set the time zone, and then have the time set, and then you can go and change the time zone, and it'll automatically adjust your clock. And it does that all mechanically.
How does it know the time zones?
Dude, this is the magic of like it's quartz, but it's all the intricate things that they do inside of the gears. It blows my mind. And this is a Luminox, which is kind of a fun watch. They have for glowing in the dark, instead of it absorbing the light, it actually has little tubes inside that are powered by a gas or something like that lasts 25 years, so they forever glow. I don't know.
How much have you spent so far on your watches?
I can't repeat that because certain people may hear.
Oh, dear.
It's not ridiculous. So compared to Ben Rudolph from Microsoft, who's also a watch fan, he like minimum spends, I think, like $1,200 on a watch.
That is a lot of money for a watch.
This is not
money,
that. This is not that. Most of these are quartz movements. They're not full on classic mechanical. Although the Citizen's neat because it's an eco drive, so this doesn't even need a battery. It's driven solely by solar, so it absorbs power just for a few minutes and it'll power it for days and weeks at a time, which is pretty cool. But yeah, you quickly. The thing is, it's like you look at the $200 to $500 range for watches. You're like, oh, that's really really nice, and then someone go like you'll see like a recommendation, you click it like, oh my god, what is that? And then it's like a $3,000 watch, but you look at it and you kind of get why it's $3,000. Like that one looks way nicer. Yeah, it's kind of fun to go down. So I also have a Victorinox, Victorinox, I forgot how to pronounce it, watch showing up too. So don't be that guy and go down this watch rabbit hole. Your wife or girlfriend will hate you for it. But I feel like this is up there with watching World War II documentaries. Yeah. It's just something happens when you just get older, you just get into it, and yeah.
See, I think it's crazy to spend that much on a watch. But at the same time, like my girlfriend looks at me when I buy a new laptop or a new phone, and she's like, "You spent how much on that?" Yeah, like you got to spend to get the good stuff, right? Surface Neo, $2,000. I'm buying it. She's like, just get a HP Stream. Does the same thing.
Jeez, HP Stream. I've never seen those things. It's just like, oh, I get why this is like $180.
Yeah, sure, they do the same thing, but do you want to do it in style, or do you just want to tell the time?
Should we talk quickly about OnePlus? Are people interested in that?
Oh yeah, and the iPhone SE. Why not? So yeah, if you care about Microsoft, tune out now, because this is the non-Microsoft part of the podcast, I guess. OnePlus announced new phones this week, and so did Apple. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, it's been rumored for a while now. The OnePlus and the OnePlus 8. These are great devices. I think OnePlus has hit its stride and is no longer the flagship killer, but rather the flagship to beat. The OnePlus 8 Pro specifically, it's a Snapdragon 865. The same design as the OnePlus 7 Pro, except it no longer has the pop-out camera. It's just got like a pinhole like the Samsungs, except it's left aligned rather than centered, which I don't. I prefer the center aligned, but oh well. It finally has wireless charging up to 30 watts, which is the first in a smartphone.
Proprietary,
of course, as is OnePlus's super fast charging. But I will say,
it falls back to Qi wireless.
It does. So you can still do I think up to 9 watt wireless charging with the OnePlus on a standard charger. But if you use OnePlus's own charger, you can get up to 60% in 30 minutes, which is huge and fantastic. But I've always said, even though OnePlus's fast charging is proprietary, it's still the best. It's incredible being able to plug in a OnePlus and have it almost full in like after a shower and breakfast. You know, it is crazy how fast that phone charges. It also has a 120 hertz display, which is sort of the craze this year, and it's going to Surface Duo is going to kill me for that very reason alone. Going back to a 60 hertz display, I think might ruin Surface Duo for me. 120 hertz is, once you do it, 120 hertz plus the 240 thoughts touch response. That's it. You can't go back. It's impossible. Trust me, it is impossible.
Yeah. This is such a hard thing to convey, because every time you see video reviews on YouTube, it literally cannot show this, because YouTube Max is at 60 frames per second. So you don't ever get to see what it's like. So that's why you really, I would say, go to Best Buy to check it out. But most of us can't even do that anymore. It's the same reason I'm on a 144 hertz display. My Windows runs at 144 hertz. Like, it just, you see all the animations better. And it's true. Once, Razer figured this out years ago with the Razer phone. One of the cool things about that, it did a 120 hertz display. It really does improve the performance. The downside is it affects battery life too. So it is a trade-off. Yeah. We've seen some devices, the iPhone, stuff like that, does a thing where it's a variable refresh rate, basically. So on certain content, it'll go fast. On others, when you're not using it,
I think OnePlus is doing that. I think it is a variable, but when you're scrolling through stuff, it is 120. But when the image is static, it drops to 60. Just to save it saves a very small amount of battery life, but it is battery life saved. So that's pretty nice. The standard OnePlus 8 is 90 hertz, so it doesn't go up to 120 hertz. It also doesn't have wireless charging. So that's kind of that's a non-starter for me. The reason I stopped using my OnePlus 7 Pro was because it didn't have wireless charging. My whole house is kitted out of wireless charging and not having it, which is going to kill me again.
Yeah, one by the toilet.
No, not by the toilet. But I've got them in the bedroom. I've got them at the office. I've got them just in the hallway, just so you can put one down, because I've got phones everywhere. But that's also going to kill me with the Surface Duo, because we're hearing, of course, the Duo doesn't have wireless charging. So I don't know. I'm just going to be
screen or NFC.
I want the Duo to be good, but we just know it's gonna be.
I still think I'm gonna like it, just because it does something I've never had in a phone before. So I'm really excited about this little book thing. That I'm really excited about trying that. But yeah, it misses a lot of bells and whistles that
really is.
New phones have.
But the pricing of the OnePlus is the sort of controversy here, because OnePlus previously has sort of always been about undercutting the flagships. OnePlus would make a great smartphone, a good flagship, but then sell it for $450, But obviously those devices were limited in certain areas. The camera has always been a sticking point for OnePlus, and it kind of still is of the new ones. It is better. I'd say it's above good at this point, but it's not great. So if you're like a huge smartphone photographer, don't buy the OnePlus. But yeah, so the new ones are... The OnePlus 8 starts at $799, I think it is, or $899. It's expensive. The OnePlus 8 standard starts at $599, I think it is. So that's still quite a bit cheaper than the other sort of the iPhone 11 or the Samsung Galaxy S20. But you are also not getting wireless charging, and you only got 90 hertz refresh rate and stuff. So you are cutting back there, which is what OnePlus has always been about with the flagships. You get the fastest phone, but at the cost of certain things here and there. And that's what the OnePlus 8 is, and previous OnePluses. But the OnePlus 8 Pro is, in my opinion, a full-blown flagship. And that's why it costs as much as it does. So
Andrew Martonic from Android Central did a really good post about this. I thought he made a really good point about this in the article, which is he thinks OnePlus should have put the 765 Qualcomm chip into the OnePlus 8. Wow. Because he said, because the problem is the 865, this is real important too. The 865 has 5G built in. You don't have a choice when you buy it. I don't mean you. I mean when the OEMs buy it. Right. They have to make it a 5G phone. And so it drives up the cost. It's also marginally faster, and it does some cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. But some of that cool stuff isn't even in the 8. what they should have done, and I think he's right on this, is the 8 should have been a non-5G phone because we all agree 5G is cool. But all the reviews show on 5G phones right now, the benefit is not that huge. It's not that much faster. Yeah. It's completely location dependent. It's not something to necessarily get excited about dropping an extra $200 on right now. That may change in 2 years. I still don't think for phones 5G is that big of a deal. I'm more interested in 5G for laptops and data processing and for new opportunities for other devices. But they could have made the OnePlus 8 significantly cheaper, put in the 765. He makes a point that basically that 765 chip was made for this kind of device. I think he's right. And I think you could have gotten away with some of the feature set of the OnePlus 8, add a 765, keep that price lower, and have a nice little, a bigger gap in pricing between those two. Because, yeah, OnePlus is definitely creeping up there in price. And it's okay in the sense, and Michael Fisher made this good point in his Mr. Mobile, the OnePlus 8 Pro is basically what we've always wanted in a OnePlus phone.
Right.
They finally did everything. And as a result, it's more expensive. So it's an option. Pay for it if you want it. If it's too expensive, it's still $100 cheaper than Samsung, though. So it's relative. Yeah. But they should have had the 8 be still the smart budget phone. They could have done that with the 765. And it would have solved, I think, a lot of problems. Now it's a 5G phone. It's an extra $100, $150. I think it's a really good analysis.
I did read rumors that OnePlus were planning to do a OnePlus 8 Lite at some point this year, which could be that phone, right? It could be a
right. Lower, that's a good point.
A lower chip, for a lower Qualcomm chip and whatnot.
And then that's skeevy, right? Because then it's sort of like people are going to buy the OnePlus 8 and accept the extra high cost. And then 2 months later, 3 months later, we're going to announce this lighter version. And people are like, I would have bought that.
Yeah, the OnePlus 8, I feel it does feel like a leftover phone. It's like, well, we have the parts. let's just get them out, which is kind of basically why the iPhone SE exists, right? Apple also announced this week their low-cost iPhone, starting at $400, which is similar to the original iPhone SE. This new iPhone SE is essentially an iPhone 8 with an A13 inside rather than an the iPhone 8 came with, A11 I think it was, and a slightly updated camera, nothing huge. It doesn't have night mode and stuff, but otherwise it's essentially the old iPhone form factor, the iPhone 6 design, but with updated specs for 2019, 2020. So if you're a fan of Touch ID and the sort of big bezeled iPhone, buy this. It's cheap and it will be supported for the next 4 to 5 years, as Apple is very good at that. But if you aren't a fan of that, then get the iPhone 11, because that's the $699 one, I think. And although it is a bit more than $400, I think it's worth the money to get the full screen display and the better design, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so quickly about the OnePlus. I'm not going to get this phone, not because it doesn't fold, although it did play a big part in it. I'm still using the Z Flip, by the way. People keep asking, what phone I'm using, because I talk about the iPhone a lot. And the iPhone is on a second SIM, but my main phone is the Galaxy Z Flip. I love this thing. I find it very difficult to go back to a phone that doesn't flip. I just adore it. That said, I'd still be interested in the OnePlus, but it has a second strike against it besides the high price, which is I'm done with fall off curved displays. Yeah. I do not like these at all. I've had them on some Samsung phones. I've had them on some Huawei phones. I have the P30 Pro, which is an amazing phone, absolutely amazing phone, but I don't like the screen on it. And I didn't like it on Samsung's either. And so I want flat screens. The Z Flip has a flat screen. I love it. iPhones have pretty much flat screens. And this new one that just came out, the SE, has a flat screen. I just think it feels better. I don't see any advantage. I get it makes the bezels thinner, but really we're at a point right now where you can still do a flat screen and still have really thin bezels. And I think this is just, they're just pushing extremes here. I just do not like the way it feels. I saw my original OnePlus 6 over here, and I picked it up, and I love that phone. OnePlus 6 was the last phone, by the way, that I feel like OnePlus, I was super happy with it. It's got the fingerprint reader on the back. Yeah. I just adore everything about the way that device feels. So OnePlus is out for me. The iPhone is super interesting because at $400, I mean, that's a really good price. Now the bezels are ridiculous on it, but there's a lot to be said. And a lot of people also made this point that Apple's kind of smart here by taking sort of an older design, modernizing it slightly. Obviously, it has a very good display on it. But they put better internals into it, modern internals, and they're selling it for $400. Like, you said this. Like, imagine if OnePlus or Google did the same thing with imagine if OnePlus took the 6 and just put in a newer chipset on it and updated something, made a display and a camera, and then sold it for $500. Oh my God, I'd buy that in a heartbeat. No 5G, just 4G. Just give me that thing. Like, why don't more companies sort of do that? Like, especially for the sort of iconic designs that they've really made a brand on. So, yeah.
I'm just impressed that Apple is able to sell a phone design that they released in 2014 to praise. Like, the media aren't bashing this phone in any way. They're going, yes, finally, the iPhone SE. Here it is, 4.7 inches in a 5.8-inch chassis. It's fantastic. Everyone should buy it and stuff. It's like, if that was Google, if Google released the Google Pixel 1 again this year, they'd be like, are you kidding me, Google? No one's going to buy this. Are you sure? But yeah, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. I wish... I think Apple are going to do this year, aren't they? They're rumored to be doing a 5.4-inch iPhone 12, which essentially will be the old iPhone design, but if it was just full screen, which is kind of what the iPhone 8 is. The iPhone 10 was, sorry, but this is going to be, I think, even smaller than that. So if you're a fan of small phones, then the iPhone 12, I think, might be the one to get this year. But
yeah, definitely agree there. I think that kind of does it. Apple's, I think they're going to do quite well with that budget. You can get that with the Apple Watch now, like earbuds, for I think someone said it for like $750. That's a crazy all-in-one package that works very well. So it's definitely a threat. Real quickly, someone pointed out a lot of Chinese brands for smartphones like Huawei, Honor, all these, they steal a lot of IP and all this kind of stuff. I've said this before in this podcast. That was definitely true years ago. But if you picked up an Honor phone or a Huawei phone today, or Oppo, one of those, they're not copying anymore. They've been innovating for the last 2 years. The Huawei P series, the P30 Pro, now the P40 Pro, I think it is, their cameras are blowing everybody away. They're doing stuff on their devices they're out accelerating Samsung, Apple, and all that. So, yeah, how they got to where they are, they definitely were shady. I don't think they're doing that now. I visited Huawei's campus. I saw what they do. They put 20% of all their profits back into R&D. Their campus is massive. Their R&D research wing is huge. And it's not they're just stealing stuff. They're sinking just a ton of money into this technology to make it better. Huawei does 5G stuff too. You can say what you want about the company, but having seen their operations, it's massive, and it's a lot of money because they make a lot of money. And so I want to give them a little credit here because what they're doing is a lot of it is on their own because they have enough capital now to do it. It's that simple. And they're pretty smart, too, with how they're doing stuff. I've said it before that I think some of the Chinese brands have been better at adapting to Western styles of their phones than the Korean brands have. So what I don't like about Samsung devices and also LG is I find their menu systems and everything just really kind of wacky and out of they either try to copy Apple or they do this mishmash. Huawei did a much better job with their operating systems and trying to make it more friendly to the U.S. I'm actually surprised about how easy it was for me to pick up their phone and use it. So, it's a complicated picture. That's all I want to say. But yeah. Whew, okay, well, we definitely went over time there, but hopefully everybody enjoyed this extra long podcast. We're now going to do some Q&A with you guys. If you have questions, we'll try to provide the answers. This is only for the live section of the podcast, so if you're listening to this recorded, this is where it ends. I'm sorry about that, but you can listen to us live every Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on mixer.com/Windows Central, or our YouTube channel at Windows Central as well. You can follow me at Daniel_Rubino, Rubino, on Twitter and Instagram, and Zach at ZACBOWDEN as well. Leave us questions, comments, or just give us a follow. We always appreciate it. And as always, thanks for listening. Keep those hands clean, and good luck out there. Take care, everybody.
Keep those hands clean.
Curtis Webb says Hamilton is another great maker. Yes, I came very close to buying a Hamilton Pilot Watch. Yeah. uh, every time you find one, you're like, I think I may buy that one. You spend like another hour and you find like five other watches that are even better. It's an addictive thing that only I feel like guys get. It's hard to explain. But there's something about the mechanical, like the craftsmanship that goes into this stuff that's missing from the digital world, right? Um, Something about the metal and the way everything feels. What's missing from digital stuff. That's why cameras, watches, stuff like this, I think still has still clicks with people.
Yeah. Jason was in the chat earlier saying, I can't believe we spent 30 minutes talking
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, I know.
Surface Go X. Listen,
He's right.
I'm just saying it could be true.
That should tell you something, right? Because there is interest there, but it also kind of makes sense that it could happen.
Someone's asking. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, someone says they love our rants and extra long talks. Thank you.
Because that's all you get on this podcast.
I don't get out of the house very often. I don't get to talk.
Will the Windows 10X preview build be available to all Windows insiders, and will Microsoft offer a dual boot capability for testing Windows 10X? So the answer is basically we don't know, but based on my knowledge of Windows 10X, the answer is no. Windows 10X isn't something you could just install over Windows 10. It's a new operating system that you'd have to install clean. But even then, as far as I'm aware, Windows 10X isn't offered in the traditional ISO format. So to get it installed onto a device, you have to flash it using a tool, similar to the old Windows phones. If you were to wipe your phone or try to restore it and stuff, you'd plug it into the Windows Phone device recovery tool and flash an FFU onto that device. The same is the case with Windows 10X as far as I'm aware. So what's most likely going to happen, assuming they haven't changed how this all works internally, is that Microsoft will release a tool, a Windows device recovery tool of some kind, and you'll be able to plug in your Surface Pro or Surface Go, flash Windows 10X onto it, and then you'll be able to use it like that. And it will only be for supported devices, so Surface Pro 4, 5, 6, 7, Surface Go 2, maybe, if that's out by then. Plus, maybe the Surface Laptop and Surface Book as well, although I doubt it for the laptops. But you won't be able to just install this on anything unless you want to hack it on, which can be done because it's been done with the emulator image already. But officially, I think it'll just be a limited subset of supported devices.
Am I looking forward to the new XPS 15, 17, and will I review it? Absolutely. I mean, these devices aren't for me. That's where it gets a little tough. That's why I use a Pro X. But the XPS 15, that's one of the first laptops I actually bought myself. I bought that in 2012 before they did the Infinity Edge stuff, and I was always impressed by. And they've only gotten better since. So the big thing, if you guys don't remember, XPS 15 and now 17 apparently is coming, not confirmed, and they're going to have the new 16 by 10 display, and it's going to look like the XPS 13, but bigger. Yeah, these could be super cool, right? I think the XPS 15, that's the gem of Dell. When I talk to their engineers, that's like their big kahuna laptop that they're really the most proud of. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'll definitely, yeah, I mean, Dell's pretty good with sending us review units. They've been, very cooperative and stuff like that. They give us the XPS 13 pretty early. I take a little bit longer to get my reviews out because I actually try to spend at least 2 weeks with the device and using it. But I tend to think my reviews have to reflect that with a lot more nuance than something like some of the other sites.
Is Surface Neo slated for this year then? Microsoft hasn't confirmed there is a delay, but we are hearing that Surface Neo has been delayed beyond 2020. So the next sort of port of call is spring 2021. That could be fall 2021. It's too far out to know for sure, but not this year. 2021 is much more likely for Surface Neo at this point.
This kind of explain the Apple phenomenon. I just don't get it, really. What's with this new phone? So, Zach and I, we're not huge Apple fans. We don't really, we're not in the ecosystem per se. But I've talked about, I have the iPhone, I have the watch, I use them. Apple's hardware really is next level. There's just such a precision to their hardware that is just so nice. Their operating system is very smooth. It's very consistent.
Their ecosystem is unmatched.
Yeah, like they get the apps first. They have the best support. The apps tend to be even better. And there's something about the iPhone. Like I said it before, I've been iffy on the iPhone for the last couple of years. I've appreciated it, but it's never been like, wow. The iPhone 11 did change it for me. I said their camera is finally actually a really good camera now. I got really good battery life out of it. I just really was very happy with it. And then you throw in the Apple Watch. I said the Apple Watch, same thing. It didn't get good to Series 4, and Series 5 is even better. The Apple Watch is really, I think, one of the most interesting pieces of technology that's come out in the last couple of years. I think it really is it's amazing what they've done with it. And it's just like when you look at an Apple Watch display and you compare it to any other smartwatch, it's not even close. Like we talk about the Galaxy S2 Active on here, which I have, Zach has, and it's a great thing if you're on Android. But the Apple Watch still destroys it. It really, like, the Apple Watch is just on a different level, I think. And so that's just Apple. It doesn't mean you need to drink the Kool-Aid and be an Apple fan, all this kind of stuff. But I've manned up. I bought these devices myself, They're good products. Doesn't mean you need to love everything Apple does. There's a lot of criticism there. But listen, their engineering game is pretty spot on. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Have you heard anything on the Surface Studio 3 and whether it'll be launched this fall still? Last time I checked, that was the plan. The Surface Studio 3 would be announced in the fall of this year, alongside a new Pro and a refreshed laptop. That could change. Like I said, this year, because of the pandemic and stuff, everything's in flux. Things can be delayed, cancelled at any time. So, I would previously the answer is yes, that's when they were expecting to announce it, but whether that actually happens or not is something we won't know until much closer to the time.
What do you guys think about the Power Toys launcher? So we did this story today. I don't use Power Toys.
Neither do I. I'll tell you why. Because most of the features in Power Toys should be in Windows. That's and I refuse to download an additional application. I don't want to do that. I see the point. I wouldn't be surprised if some of those features do eventually work their way into Windows. That is usually the case.
And that's how maybe Power Toys is sort of, I think it's almost like a Garage Labs thing where they can try out new stuff. I will say Power Toys is very popular. I haven't found a need for it. I don't use multiple displays right now, so I don't get a lot of benefit there. I also, there's some issues with, bar of entry in terms of when I launch it, I don't really know what to do with it. It's not it is very advanced stuff for setting up stuff. And maybe I'm overthinking about it, but I've never been able to figure out what it's doing exactly. I haven't looked at the new launcher stuff, but it seems interesting. I think the Power Toys is a good, test bed for some new, advanced features. So it's kind of neat. Yeah, go try it. It's free, by the way, obviously, if you're listening to this. Just go down Power Toys and you can try it out. Back in the old Lumia days, there was a whole thing about what radios Microsoft put into their phones as a way of not pissing off Verizon some sort of must-carry provision. Is there any carrier story drama along the lines with Duo? I don't believe so, no. The whole carrier exclusive thing really doesn't exist anymore. There's very rare exceptions these days, sometimes with Chinese phones and US bands. But for the most part, but even then, I run a lot of Huawei phones on US bands and no issue. No, Microsoft stuff has always been unlocked, SIM unlocked. Even with the Galaxy Book S is partnered with Verizon and Sprint, and mine came with a Verizon card. And it kind of freaked out when I put in an AT&T or T-Mobile card, and then it gave me a message, but it just worked. It was still technically SIM unlocked. So I expect Duo to be not locked to carriers. I think it's gonna be like the iPhone. The iPhone's the same way. You can buy it through Verizon and get Verizon's bloatware, but it's still technically unlocked.
Should we expect an online live streamed event or a blog post for the spring event? It's a good question. We talked about this in the podcast. We just don't know at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I feel like if there's going to be an event, they need to announce that at the latest, the end of next week. And if they don't, then I would assume there is not going to be an event. It would just be blog posts. We'll have to wait and see, though.
Someone's asking, do I baby my Galaxy Z Flip? No. I do recommend a case. Some people don't use a case. That's fine. I don't trust myself. I don't want to drop this thing. And I kind of like the case because it makes the phone feel more grippy to me, and I feel more like I can just handle it better. But as far as the display, I'm actually just wiping it down now because it does pick up fingerprints. No, the display has been fine. You can see like what I would call two or three micro scratches. These are like ones you have to get the light to reflect on them, and you can kind of see them. They look kind of normal
Are
wear
they
and
like
tear.
normal scratches that a normal glass phone would have?
Pretty much.
So yeah,
Definitely
it's
from where
fine.
my thumb
Yeah.
is scrolling. It's probably because sometimes on your edge of your thumb you might have a little rough piece.
Mm.
But like I said, you have to reflect it in the light and really hunt for it. But while you're using it, and they're very very thin. But other than that, no, this thing has been beautiful. I've had no issues. The screen is gorgeous. Uh, I'm going to say it's scratch free. No problems. I absolutely just, and I haven't really been babying it. You know, with that case, it's just, I love it.
Now that Microsoft is changing the things that Cortana can do, how is this going to work with the Surface headphones or buds? Also with pairing, blah, blah, blah. It's a good question. So, as far as we're aware, obviously we don't have the buds in hand. When we asked Microsoft back in October, they said, yeah, Cortana will be there. You'll still be able to use Cortana. But you can also use the Google Assistant, Siri, and Alexa if you want to. You can use whatever you want with them, which is kind of big, actually. But
have an opinion on that.
thank you. But the question of what you're asking is, will Cortana still be part of this sort of setup experience? And as far as we're aware, yes. Microsoft will still be using the Cortana voice and stuff for the ready for setup. Please pair with blah, blah, blah. And I assume you can still use Cortana to ask things like the weather and stuff. But I don't know if it'll be like a full-blown assistant type thing. I think it will tap into whatever's set as default on your phone. So if you're using an iPhone, it'll be Siri. If you're using an Android, it'll be either the Google Assistant or Alexa. Or if you're in the US, it'll be Cortana, because you can still do that, I believe, in the States. You can't do that outside the States no more on Android, unfortunately. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that works. But yeah, as far as we're aware, according to Microsoft back in October, Cortana will be part of these devices. Any news on an updated Microsoft Store app? Its UI is very tile-based and Windows 10X isn't, so it would clash on with the OS, blah, blah, blah. No, I have not heard anything. The last I heard is that there is no dedicated Windows Microsoft Store team anymore. It's under some other team that sort of has to babysit it, so I'm not expecting any huge changes to the store, unfortunately. It's funny because that team was, I guess, disbanded is maybe the wrong word. I don't know. That team no longer, sort of the dedicated store team no longer exists, but they were working on a brand new UI for the store, like tabs along the top and stuff. It was going to be like dynamic tabs, rather, where you click on a category, then that category would expand into more categories and stuff. And that just never came. That's about 2 years old now, I think. So, yeah, unfortunately, the store has, air quotes, been abandoned, not from a contents perspective, but rather from an app perspective, the development of the app, the UI and stuff. There's not much work going on with it anymore.
Yeah, someone mentions the Precision 5510 was the version of the XPS 15, the business version. Yeah, with the Qualcomm stuff. Thank you.
Will the Jira have Windows apps? No. It will run Android apps. If your example there's calculator, it will have a calculator app, I assure you, or I assume rather, but it won't be a Windows app. It'll be whatever Microsoft did to build it on Android, so it'll be a native Android app.
Someone's asking what a Surface Watch would look like. Of course, we don't know. There's no public plans for a Surface Watch. The only thing I can say is go back to the 2015 video of was it Future Visions Productivity Microsoft did, and they show a wearable, and it's basically, it looks like one of those slap wraps, but it's a whole display, and it wraps around your wrist, and you can then flick your wrist, and it does like changes the screen, but it acts as sort of like notifications and a screen that comes in. It unlocks doors and stuff like that. The only reason I bring that up is because that video has been sort of like a real, very prescient about what Microsoft does. Like, you could see the earbuds in there in 2015. You can see the Surface Dial. You can see displays that fold and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's what they're going to work on or that's what they're thinking of. But my guess is whatever they come out with wouldn't be just like an Apple Watch, but runs something from Microsoft. I think it would be a real like radical rethinking of what a wearable device could be and what it should be. but who knows on the status of that, if they're working on it, what they're thinking. And they have to be thinking about it, but that's all we can say.
Did you all see Brad Anderson yesterday with his earbuds and Duo again? He's teasing us every week at this point. Yeah. I think he does live streams now where he's just got them around.
Someone's asking, what is Power Toys? It's an app on GitHub. It's made by Microsoft. People contribute code to it and stuff, and it's an app you install, and it gives you advanced features like you can pre-program how apps snap into Windows, like to pre-configured stuff. Like you can have like triple windows, and it'll default to that, and you can do it's customization stuff. It's for Power Toys for power users, so it's not stuff regular consumers will use. But if you have multiple displays and you really want some advanced control of how Windows operates, it's kind of good for that. And it keeps getting new features. CDMA. CDMA is not really a thing anymore. I mean, it is for phone calls, but both Sprint and Verizon use LTE for voice now, I believe, as options, and it falls back to. So I have phones that run on Verizon, not much issue and stuff like that. But who knows about the Duo? I think the Duo will be fine on Verizon. I don't see a problem with it.
Actually, I think I can comment on that. Hang on.
All right.
Just trying to find it.
Will the delay of Windows 10X help with getting better apps, or will this hurt? I don't think it matters. I don't know what else to say about that. I think the power of 10X and apps is going to really come down to, for a lot of people, it's going to be web apps and PWAs and this kind of stuff, as well as existing UWPs. And then if you really need to fall back on, you got Win32. Yeah, someone says they love the Falcon X app. Thank you. Yes, that's highly recommended. I will say it did change names this week, which was inconvenient. It is now called, I believe it's called Taskbar X. Taskbar X, yes, one word. Go to the store, download it, try it. For those wondering, it basically puts all your icons in the taskbar. It makes them centered instead of shifted to the left. It's very much more like Apple-like. I said this makes a lot of sense on large displays, 27, 32 or bigger, because it's less movement for your cursor to have everything centered versus having to go all the way to the left. But it also does cool things like animations. You can also make the taskbar transparent, acrylic, or translucent. And so you can choose that. So it makes it's a cool app. It's only a couple dollars. It's in the process of getting kind of overhauled and updated right now, but highly recommend it. Taskbar X.
Real quick, going back to that carrier question. Yeah, I've heard that Microsoft is testing it on Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile.
Yeah, so there you go. Any particular reason why they would hold the Duo announcement till July instead of a couple weeks?
Because it's not going to be shipping straight away. Unlike the Book and the Go, they'll make the announcement and you might even be able to pre-order on the same day. You might also be able to pre-order the Duo on the same day. We don't know. It depends. Like I said, we don't know for sure when the Duo will be announced. It's possible they could announce it alongside these two devices and just say it's going to be shipping a bit later. Or they might decide to hold the announcement and have it be more timely. It's being announced, say, June 15th, and it will be shipping June 30th or whatever. We'll have to wait and see, of course.
I'll just say Microsoft. My birthday's in June, late June. I don't want to give the exact day. Please don't wish me happy birthday. I'm not into my birthday.
Could you imagine the @Microsoft account on Twitter? Just happy birthday, Dan.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But Surface Team, if you're listening,
how many followers does @Microsoft have? I want to say, I'm going to get them to tweet you happy birthday, so everyone in the world.
Thanks.
Can see it.
Zach knows how uncomfortable I get. My birthday. I still want. There's that joke I still do, which is, everybody, tell me how great I am. For on this day I was born. Shower me with gifts to show your adulation. For the fact I was born on this day and have made your lives better. Like, that's how I feel birthdays are. It's just weird. I don't like being the center of attention. But if you want to give me a Carvel ice cream cake, I'm okay with that. It's got to be Carvel though. Got to have those little chocolate crunchy things. Everybody in the U.S. knows what I'm talking about. It's amazing.
How do you think Google, MS, Microsoft, and Apple will be able to improve PWA support on their respective platforms? I know they're not native, but what is needed to improve those experiences? It's a good question. I mean, there's not much they can do other than make the app look like a native app, right? And that just means minimizing things like the address bar down to. I mean, Edge does a really great job of this already. As long as you can put the app in the start menu, have it listed in the system as an actual app. Then there's nothing more Microsoft can really do. Obviously, Microsoft can provide the APIs that allows the website to tap into things like the notification center and possibly live tiles and whatnot. But other than that, there's really not much else they can do. The next step for developers is adopting things like React Native, which takes the web code and translates it into something that uses native UWP controls. Or native Windows controls, rather. But not everyone's going to do that, and they shouldn't have to, really. So yeah, I don't think Apple will do it. Apple's got its own Apple Music PWA, which went out of beta today, I think. And it looks fine on Windows, but it doesn't. I wouldn't say it's a very performant app, but whatever.
Yeah, part of this is twofold. There's obviously the consortium of people and web developers who work on improving PWA. PWA is a platform. It's constantly evolving. There's features that it doesn't have today that are plans. A lot of that revolves around security of media for downloading stuff for offline use, which is totally capable, but they need to be done in a certain way to match what the website wants. This is like I'm talking about Netflix in particular. So part of it's just evolution of the more features that come online and all this kind of stuff and getting web. The other is what Zach was just talking about, this ability to, install stuff through Edge, have the OS play a bigger role in doing that. Maybe the store plays a part in it at some point. The store is going to take, I think, if they do go down that route, it's going to take a little bit while longer because the store right now, web apps are powered by Edge HTML. It's the old version. They don't want people to force one thing on developers and it breaks because now they're switching to a different JavaScript engine with a new Edge. This story becomes more clear as soon as this update goes out for May and more people get the new Edge default browser on their Windows 10. When that's going to take a couple of quarters. That's not going to happen in May and then by June it's done, right? It's going to take still 6 months, 9 months. But as that number creeps up for amount of new Edge users, the more they can start to focus on the PWA stuff because you don't get this sort of conflict like, I can't do that. It's not working on my computer. Oh, you need the new browser. You got to download that in the back end stuff. So it's kind of complicated. But yeah, there's multiple moving parts there. But the industry is still moving there. Apple's the one that's probably the least interested in this because they make so much money in the App Store. So they would rather just continue doing that versus making it easier through the web. And Google has that kind of issue too, but they don't make nearly as much money in the App Store, and I think they're more interested in just dominating the web. So they prefer, and it helps them with their Chrome OS story, right? And Microsoft's just kind of in the middle and kind of benefits because they don't have a great App Store, and they didn't have a good web game, but now they kind of do. So.
Now that Andromeda OS is dead, will you do a write-up on how that OS operated and looked since it was a journal-focused Windows 10 UI variation and all that stuff? Eventually, yeah. We're waiting for the Duo to launch first before we actually do anything like that. Once the Duo's out and it's old news, then we will get around to doing here's what the Surface Duo was going to be like if it ran Windows.
Do you want to mention that about that Surface Go X picture may be true?
No.
Did you?
Dan, let's not talk about it now.
Okay.
I need to look into it a bit more first. But it is possible that it's true. Stop it! Let's not. Yeah. I don't want to get everyone's hopes up. That's why I'm not saying anything right now.
And if they do that, I'd be so happy. Although I'd still probably take the Pro X everywhere I go because it'll be faster and a bigger, better display. But man, a Go X in the bathroom would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's not real, guys. Stop it. All right, a couple more questions.
Do you think Surface Book 3 will support Minecraft RTX? I mean, the rumors suggest no, right? So what the most we're hearing about is the GTX 1660 or 1660 Ti, which don't get me wrong, it's a good card. It's not RTX though, and it wouldn't be able to do that. And that's where if they do that kind of stuff, part of me kind of gets it because of the thermal constraint thing. As I said before, Book 3 is just not meant to do that. But I would, I'd still be disappointed, of course, too. And this, for me, this is why they need to do a laptop Pro, in my opinion. They need to have a laptop Pro so they can throw in these RTX cards and throw in these 35 or 45 watt chips and really make something that kind of competes with the MacBook Pro 16. Because the Book 3, I know everybody perceives it as versus that computer, but it's not. The MacBook Pro 16 with a Core i9, 64 gigs of RAM, a 4 or 8 terabyte drive, whatever they're doing. I think it's 4 terabytes now. I think maybe even 8. It's a different level of performance. The one lackluster area of the Mac is the AMD GPU, which is not that great. And that's because Apple doesn't use NVIDIA. It works well with their software, but it's not a very powerful card. But I really feel like Microsoft needs a device that can do that, and I'd be shocked if they didn't do it because they've done everything else so far. Surface Laptop 3, 2, the original 13-inch one was totally meant to compete with the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro 13 or MacBook, whatever it is. It's sort of straddling those lines, So they're definitely going after these one by one. But I love to see them do that. But that's what I'm saying. Book 3, I know we all want it to be this powerhouse juggernaut, but I'm telling you, you just can't.
I would honestly be shocked if they didn't build a Go with ARM. It just makes more sense for portability and connectivity. You know what? I said the exact same thing when the original Surface Go launched, and they didn't do it. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see with the Go 2.
Do you think Surface X or One X will support ray tracing in Minecraft? The Series X does, yes. Not the One X. No, the One X does not have the hardware. Series X actually does have the hardware to do RTX. I mentioned that during the Minecraft stuff. So yes, you will get it there. Another reason to get the Series X. Someone was asking earlier too whether or not, I think something about the Surface headphones having Xbox support, the wireless support, and no, it won't. And I doubt it would be. It's a separate chip. It's a pretty big chip too, and I think it adds a lot to it just to get a proprietary connection to Xbox. I get the argument for it, but we've also heard things that there may be another headphone thing for Xbox coming out that may solve that problem. Something that's more gamer oriented. So I don't know. Stick a pin in that. We'll return to it maybe next week. Will the Duo rival the Fold? Well,
From a spec to spec comparison, I don't think so.
No. Yeah, the Fold's a $2,000 phone, and it has some pretty good hardware. And don't forget, by the time Duo launches, Fold 2 is actually going to is rumored to be coming out, I believe, in August as well. Now, I think the Fold, though, is going to be way ahead in terms of just raw features. But, Ars Technica did a pretty brutal review of the Fold, talking about how there were just a lot of issues with that display aspect not being optimized for Android perfectly. That is, and there's a complaint that like in Instagram stuff gets cut off and it scales up but it cuts off things, and then the outside screen, while useful, is too small. I'm sure they'll probably actually address that, but still the aspect ratio is kind of weird. I think the Fold is a really good attempt, but they're running into some other issues, and it's not because their hardware isn't good. It's just because of the form factor and the display and the aspect that they kind of got to figure out.
Did the FCC cut open the earbuds? I don't know. Did you see those images of the earbuds?
Well, we saw it. I mean, they had the earbuds cut open when they announced it. They had that table.
I think what he's saying, or she's saying, I don't know, that in the image they look a little bit like fallen apart, and he's wondering if the FCC opened them or if the earbuds are just
Oh,
flimsy.
who knows? Probably. I'm sure they do take them apart. Sure. They got to make sure that the 5G coronavirus chip is in there for the mind control of the New World Order. Like Zach didn't laugh at that because he's reading.
Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, it does look like they've cut them open. Yeah. Yeah, they've definitely cut. They didn't look like that when we had hands on with them.
They dissected them while they were alive. Ugh. Possibility of a Surface monitor could happen. We haven't heard
if any, the earliest would be fall alongside the Studio 3, but
yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Yes, I think the Duo is going to be a good productivity device that you shouldn't get yet. Yes, that's going to be that's the review. I can already tell you. There's going to be two main aspects to the review that everybody's going to write on. It's a really neat idea. Don't get it yet. Wait for the next version. And the camera sucks. Those will be all the reviews. I guarantee it. That's going to be the conclusion.
Yeah.
And I also agree with some of you saying that I'm still going to have one. I'll still use it. And I'll still love it. Yeah.
It's got a Microsoft logo on it. That automatically gives it a free pass for me.
But it looks awesome too. Like you got to admit, when
it
it's
does
folded
look
up,
great.
It's right, that logo, that looks like something I want to see at my desk every time. Because every time I see it, I'm like, ooh, neat. And open it up. Like I know I'm going to like it, but that's going to be different than recommending it necessarily.
I think the biggest factor with the Duo is going to be its price. If they can get it below $1,000, right. if like that would be a big deal. And I think even with its shortcomings, a lot of people would accept it at less than $1,000.
Yes, I agree. And because we know the specs aren't that amazing, it could, like in theory, get below that price. So.
But I doubt it because it's a Microsoft logo, which means it's $400 more expensive than it needs to be. Plus, that hinge is $1,000. So,
anything new on Windows Mixed Reality? No. But I mean, we talked about last week a little bit about how there's a lot of people being hired at Microsoft, and I believe they're entering a new pre-production phase for Windows Mixed Reality / augmented reality for consumers. I think we're still talking 2 to 3 years out, but I think we're talking about something like a consumer viable product for HoloLens is starting at Microsoft. I feel pretty confident, not 100%, but I feel like 60% confident that's what's happening. Because it just makes sense if you think about it. At some point, they're going to have to commit to the consumer stuff, and everybody else is. All the rumors are saying Apple, Google, 2022, 2023. Any opinions about the upcoming XPS 15? I already talked about it. Super excited. I think I love 16 by 10. I know it's not 3 by 2, but as someone who loves and uses 3 by 2, if you got a 16 by 10, you would actually have a hard time telling the difference. The 16 by 10 it's more radical to go to 16 by 10 from 16 by 9 than it is to go 3 by 2 to 16 by 10. That's the only way I can say it. 16 by 10 is awesome. And having such a big display, edge to edge on all 4 areas, and the XPS quality and it being thin and all this, it's going to get good battery life. It's going to be an IGZO display, which is amazing. I'm super excited about it. All right, I think that's good enough.
Sure. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated on when we go live. See you next time.
Bye.